Hello, everybody. Ketura is here with Mock. Today we are going to be doing some commentary for the 2025 World Championship Circuit. Today is a PC Fellowship tournament. There will be two tournaments, actually. Right now is the European time zone version, and there will be an American time zone version later today. And we are going to be watching some of these games, following some of these players as they take a chance on entering the 2025 World Championship. So yeah, that is going to be going on in about 5 minutes, 4 minutes now.
We got 7 players sitting in queue. Still time for people to join if they would like. If we cross the 8-player mark, it changes the length of this event, but if not a big deal at all.
Yeah, so right now with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people, that's going to be 3 rounds, right? It's actually not until we hit 9, I think, that it skips over.
Yeah, you got 1 round at 2, 2 rounds at 4, 3 rounds at up to 8, then 9 would bring it to a 4th round, up until 16. I do love the idea of doing more rounds than strictly necessary for a Swiss ranking, but these events are going to be pretty regular, and if we're going to make a change like that, we do it next year.
Yeah, that's what we did for the group stage, and I think that it works really well for the big event like that.
Yeah, I
make absolute certain, but for the regular feeder events, I don't know that it's really necessary.
I'm inclined to agree. I think these ones are less about kind of coming in first, and so losing a match somewhere takes you out of the first place. And these are more about, how can you get enough good events under your belt to be able to place into the larger event.
Yeah.
Should probably stop calling them all events. It's going to get confusing. But
well, there's 8 people. One more, and we'll
all
be
right.
sticking this over to 4 rounds.
It's mostly names I recognize here. From our world events last year.
Yep, Jerry Gelly.
I don't think I see anybody
Chadwick,
new.
Distale, and Olin, Stefan 77. I don't recognize Carvier, but
yeah, he's the only name, or they are the only name that I don't remember specifically from that event. Maybe new player, maybe just new to competition, or maybe we're both the worst and just can't quite recall. But always good to have more folk doing these. Yeah, people checking in to make sure they know how many rounds there are going to be in the GIMP chat.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, we got a last-minute joiner.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, Basmelis.
All right.
In at the end, giving us some challenge. Basmelis is of course, the 2-year in a row world champion. He has destroyed both events that he has been at. Both years.
He was recently in the EU Decipher event as well. Do you know how well he placed there? I don't think I've seen the lineup yet.
In fact, I'm not sure that I've seen placements posted. I should really ask Axter and see if we have any indicators anywhere.
Yeah, Axter had posted the winner, but I don't think I've seen the rest of it lined up. But I know he was there. I saw him in some of the pictures that were posted, and always excited to know how our GEMP regulars are doing in those live events.
Okay.
4-round event.
So here we go. It's going to be kicking off the tables in 1 minute.
Yeah, no 10th player, unfortunately, so there will be a bye.
Yeah.
At least the first round. Stolly might be giving away his free peoples in the GIMP chat there.
Yeah, well, probably not. May the best dwarf win. Well, that would certainly be a flex if he is running a dwarf deck.
If a dwarf Frodo deck took this event, I would be really impressed.
All right, here we go.
All right, tables
All
are
right.
up.
So buy is Chadwick. I'm sure he'll be thrilled. All right, so we have Enelin versus Gary Gelly. We have Chrisme versus Basmelis, Distali versus Modsdrew, and Stefan77 versus Carvier. So as a reminder, this is going to be playing PC Fellowship, which means that we are going to be having set V1 legal in addition to sets 1, 2, and 3 as produced by Decipher. There's also a substantial number of errata that have been issued by the Players' Council. Here, for instance, you can see that Greenleaf has finally been... Well, you'd hope that he'd be toppled from his throne, but here we have two people here both starting him, so it's not like he's been nerfed all that much. But yeah, so people are starting up their starting fellowships. Gary Gelly here running. Oh, this is going to be a very heavy fellowship on site 1. We have Gandalf Aloran coming out and Aragorn Estelle being pulled by the Prancing Pony. So that is a significant amount of Twilight coming down. Estelle using his ability to pull Celeborn out. And then we have Callaghan being played and Gwemegal going on Arwen. So this is going to be the classic Elf-Man deck. Augmented as Aloran and Estelle are able to do with their influence on elf allies. So there's going to be a ton of ally work here. 22 Twilight being slapped down on site 2. That's definitely in a punishable zone.
No PC Twilight insurance in Fellowship, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we with set V2 we released a round of what we call flood insurance cards, and those were definitely made for this very situation. But looks like he needs no flood insurance. He's got his own flood insurance in the form of a bunch of Nazgul. We have the Twilight Nelia coming down, Alara Toldea, just one burden away from being able to assign himself using his own ability, and of course Shotgun and Quail. Now, Greenleaf comes down and is able to exert just once to take out Nelia, but then his own text that has been altered now says that you have to exert him again unless he bears a ranged weapon or you can spot more minions than companions, and neither one of those circumstances is met here.
So I'm not sure I understand why the exertion on, or the wound on Nelia went down there.
I think it's because Gwemegal makes her damage +1, and so if she pumps herself up, she's going to be just enough to one-shot. Yeah. And those sorts of moves are always a little bit easier to make here on Site 2 right before your Sanctuary at Site 3. Yeah, the exertions are a lot, and he's definitely in range of getting killed, but this is still a little bit of a bloodbath. We have a few wounds going down. It's going to be more than the 5 that you're peeling off from Site 3, so this is already a very successful shadow move, I think. Gwemegal, of course, being used, probably tossing cards from hand to get her up just enough.
That additional wound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to leave with the 3. Probably not moving on to the Fords of Brune.
Probably not. That would be probably a big mistake, especially when you've already got the 5 wounds here. But that's a highly successful shadow. If he's able to pull off one more Nazgul next turn, I think that'll be good. Now, this is something that I've often wondered if it's part of a strategy or not. I had to do a double take on this particular site because I thought it was a tower site for a moment, but this is an alternate art. I think. Wait, no, it's just a site I've never seen before, or that barely gets seen in the meta. Each Nazgul's Twilight cost is -1, as opposed to Weathertop making them all fierce, or Bree Streets getting rid of the roaming penalty.
Yeah, the -1 is better if you're running, I think it's Nelia, who's the only Site 2 Nazgul, or if you've got a bunch of copies of Bill Feeney, because he makes them not roaming, so he doesn't combine well with the Bree Streets.
Yeah. So in this case, he saved a grand total of 2 Twilight, but if he had or not Weathertop, if he had Bree Streets instead, he would have saved a total of 4. So
right. Yeah, it's always a hard one to want to run Weather Hills.
Right.
Over Bree Streets. It can pay off, if you get flooded like this and you happen to have a bunch of the cheaper ones, running Lamenia, Nerdia, Ostea in your hand, good to go. It's gonna pay for itself quickly, but often I think Bree Streets is usually the superior option between the two.
Yeah. So
but
Gary Gelly
perhaps
here is running Troop of Urkai, so he's probably doing an Isengard deck with that splashed Tower Assassin. As somebody who is running a bunch of allies, they are likely very aware of how big the ally meta is right now in PC Fellowship. Well, and while this is going down, let's just hop into some of these other games and see what's what. So we have Basmelis versus Chrismy. Chrismy is running, let's see, we've got Alorna, we've got Boromir, and we've got 2 Hobbits.
Yeah, I'd like to just briefly highlight, I've got all 4 games up on my screen, which I know doesn't share well on Twitch. But out of our 4 games, the Prancing Pony was 3 of the first sites. And we have a total of 5 Aragorns on the field. We have one of every Fellowship Aragorn out. 2 Estelles, but there is one of each. They've got
Ranger
a
of the North,
good broad
and there's
showing here.
Heir to the White City, Estelle, King in Exile. Yeah, well, that's good as indicator as any that, you know, Aragorn's good no matter what what
he
version
sure
you
is.
pull out. I'm still kind of shocked that people bother with Heir to the White City, but I think in this case, looking at this is definitely a Frodo Signet deck. That may be the only reason that particular Aragorn is being pulled out. This is definitely
I
a
run
deck.
him in Pipeweed. Because of that Frodo Signet, you can exert him 3 times with the bow and get them all healed up with a single Pipeweed. But outside of that, I think his PC revision has made him not nearly as strong as he is in Decipher.
Yeah. The buff to Sam Faithful Companion has been fairly successful, I think. People have been using him to pull pipes out directly or pull Sting out. Or in this case, looks like Frying Pan was pulled. But
I found myself using Mithril Coat again, now that Sam can fetch it if I happen to be facing down Uruk-hai.
Yeah.
Without needing to worry about it being a dead card and a bad draw. Can get it if I need it, and I can discard it if I don't.
So DeStadley here throwing down a whole lot of companions very early on. We have a very full fellowship here. We've got only 1 slot left. Tail of Gugglab being thrown on Greenleaf.
Missing Pippin.
That's the Hobbit of Some Intelligence, the holiday promo version. Interesting that he used that one. You'd think that there'd be at least... Well, I guess he doesn't have very many Frodo Signets.
I think Hobbit of Some Intelligence is wildly underrated for how good he is as a single card splash. You know, his job's not there to stick around.
Well, look at this. Monster is throwing down so many tentacles. Monster is definitely an advocate of the revamped tentacles. We released a bunch of new tentacles with V1, but they were still kind of lackluster, and so when V2 was released, we issued some errata and a couple of new cards, actually. So Ceranon Dam here is one of the things that I think really enables the tentacle archetype. There's only 2 marshes on the entire Fellowship site path, one of them being a Site 2 and the other one this Site 4 of Moria Lake. And so Ceranon Dam gives you the ability to have other sites turn into marshes, which can be super helpful.
I do worry for him that he's just lost his advantage here, though. That Secret Sentinel sticking out of Dark Waters means that he didn't drop a swarm that's going to die and stack. He dropped a swarm that's just going to get wrecked a little bit here.
That's very
Might
true,
get a wound or 2 on some of the weaker companions, but I'm not even sure if that's going to be the case.
Yeah. And interestingly, it's all 4 foul tentacles. I guess he used them as a chain. He probably only played 1, and then each one kept pulling the next.
Which is a great way to start off here if what you're trying to do is set up for that kind of eventual bomb using the Out of Dark Waters. But not having your stackability, I haven't played against enough of the tentacles to know how harsh that's going to be, but I think that was...
Yeah, that was pretty devastating. Every single one of them lost.
There.
Every single one of them would have been stacked. I think you're spot on. That would have that turned an impressive amount of tentacles into absolutely nothing, and so that's no benefit for Mozdrew. All of his foul tentacles are now in the discard pile. Things will get interesting now because of the existing of Writhing Tentacle, one of the new ones released with V2. He does have the ability to pull them out of his discard pile and put them on the stack if he ever gets that stack going. But yeah, Site 4 being the only native marsh means that he's going to be relying now on his Ceranon Dam and Vile Tentacle to be able to play any more tentacles this game.
He does have the dam in play already, and I don't believe there's any way for the Free People's player to discard an artifact in Fellowship. Perhaps I'm missing.
Yeah. So this is definitely invincible. That's not going anywhere. Now we have Bow of the Galadriel coming out on Legolas Greenleaf. So Mazdru here is going to be having his Greenleaf at full power. He's now essentially not nerfed, and in fact he's a little bit buffed because even when he uses his ability, he does not lose the archery total. So now this guy's going to be right back to his old Gatling gun ways. Stally running Sauron Grind down here. We have a couple of Under the Watching Eyes and an Orc Bowman. Don't know if Bilbo is in play, perhaps. Maybe he's in the deck somewhere. Could be turning some of these Gondor Bowmen into removed conditions, but I guess that's something that we'll have to see.
Bilbo's not uncommon in Pipeweed decks, but it's sometimes you see the Site 3 one that can cycle them back into your deck for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the traditional discard your support area conditions, Bilbo is not as prevalent, but I don't know, obviously, what Morrsdow is playing. Morrsdew?
Yeah, I don't know either.
Maudru.
Maudru.
I'm going to struggle with that one.
So a whole lot of Twilight coming down on the table on the side of Distali. He's got a full 9 companions. The Balrog comes out, but it's Durn's Bane, so there's not going to be anything else to back him up. However,
a lot of Must Do Without Hope.
Yeah, Must Do Without Hope building up in the hand. Each one adding a burden. Oh yes, because this is in fact, so this particular Tentacle deck I think is going to be really working on the burden angle. Now, that was one of the changes that was made, especially here to Thrashing Tentacle. Each time this minion loses a skirmish, add a burden, or 2 burdens if you cannot spot a burden. And so kind of the idea even is that this particular Tentacle doesn't really want to be winning skirmishes, but so he's generating them. There is another event as well that will also add them. And then if opportunity arises, then the Cyrodiil Dam can be used to turn 2 burdens into Watcher, replacing a Tentacle, which if done at an opportune moment could definitely get you a kill. Now, Distali here is just stacking up on people that he's got plenty of expendables at the moment.
Yeah, I don't even know if Distali has anybody who's so important that an Inkea drop would cause him a real issue. That Gandalf might be in danger right now.
Mm-hmm.
But with this many companions, it's hard to say how important Gandalf really is to the deck. Same thing with Estelle.
Yeah. That double move coming out to get rid of him, but you can see that this particular one is a river. That is pretty much the only consideration that Mazdru makes to his site path, is making sure that as many of them are rivers as possible, which makes Cyrodiil Dam a kick in. Now, this was actually impacted by the rule change that went out earlier this week, where the terrain keyword was more sharply defined, and in particular we removed Sanctuary from the list of terrain keywords, meaning that he no longer had to pack Fort of Bruinen in a non-Nazgul deck, which he mentioned in chat was kind of a burden that he was giving his opponents free Nazgul all the time. Let's just hop in and take a look at some of these other ones. So we have Stefan versus Carveer. Looks like Carveer is running... This looks like a very standard, regular Fellowship deck with the Grey Pilgrim and Heir to the White City. Stefan 77 throwing down a very classic Moria Swarm.
Carveer's running Grind as well.
Yeah. So we've got Foul Things that has that was errated, what was that, like a year ago or so, that now it pulls any Moria card from your discard pile, which now makes it very handy for recycling Goblin Armories and such as they get removed. And yeah, we've got that V1 Gaze of the Eye, which gives you protection for your Sauron conditions, 1 burden per removal or per protection, which can really make Grind an impenetrable wall. Well, not quite impenetrable, but if you've got those burdens stacked up, then yeah.
It also makes you think about burdens in a deck that otherwise you kind of ignore them. I not all that long ago lost a game against Sauron Grind because I failed to use my burden pipe before I used my Sleep Cadras.
Yeah.
And that was absolutely the difference between a clean walk and getting wrecked at site 8.
Now this is interesting. I'm surprised to see Prince of Mirkwood coming out. This, in fact, I was, you know, not to disparage it, but this almost looks like like a couple of just regular Fellowship decks going up against each other. Although this is a very interesting addition. I don't know that anybody's ever ran this outside of a starter deck in a long time.
I mean, he's certainly not bad. Like, you know, you run the Arwen that has the same ability all the time.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the same equipment to be able to handle Nazgul, but if he's just there as a splash to be able to absorb both, you know, regular and fierce skirmish without being overwhelmed, I'm not sure. You know, if there's nothing else going on, he might be better than Arwen for that. He's not a ranger, but he is a native archer.
Yeah.
But yeah, you almost always see Greenleaf in these decks. Maybe we've
is that going to be a
Greenleaf
double
hard
hate?
enough.
Double hate. That's going to be a dead Aragorn.
Ooh.
Oh no, there's a pause. Is there a... Okay, I wondered if perhaps his opponent had an Intimidate that he was holding on to. But no, that's a big blow, losing your Aragorn that was all starting to get kitted up.
Especially if this is a classic Decipher Super Friends deck, that's a major component of it.
Fortunately, Gandalf says, well, I have a backup man, so I don't lose any of my benefits, so... Glad you took out the spare. Boromir, you're now the King of Arnor.
I mean, he would have been anyway, right, if Denethor had his way.
So Carvier, of course, throwing out some of these trackers, many of them perhaps not having that big of an impact on the game itself, but he wants them in the discard pile for later, because almost certainly that Site 9 is going to be Tolbrandir, which is going to let him pull 3 trackers out of his discard pile. And depending on the situation, you may end up going with the cheaper ones, or you may go with the more expensive ones that are a bit higher quality, but that really depends on how much Twilight they throw at you.
Yeah, in PC, that site's really strong for the PC work that gets better if you spot an Exhausted Companion, because by Site 9 you almost always do. Doesn't work as a splash in your Moria Swarm decks anymore, but for Sauron, that's a strong option in Fellowship. Sorry, in PC Fellowship.
So that is, yeah, the Orc Ambush Troop here. Yeah, this was one of the, definitely one of the highlights of V1, I think. A tracker that gets progressively more powerful the more exhausted companions you can spot. And if you have a bunch of those out and there's a bunch of exhausted people for him to spot, that can turn into a very scary wall of meat.
And he's one of those ones that I think's done really well, where he is in a lot of ways a win more card, but he's a win more card in a deck that is specifically designed to require that being the momentum of the deck.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, grind kind of, that is the play style for it. You know, it's not like Nazgul, where if you put a card in that's like, yeah, and when the Witch King inevitably wins his 2 skirmishes, you get extra bonuses. I think he was really well designed. I don't know who to give that praise to. I wasn't here yet, but
yeah, that's Finarfin all the way. He was responsible for all of these Sauron grind improvements.
Yeah, he did a great job there.
Yes, he did.
Oh, up in Destalia's game, and Kaya just ate Gandalf.
Miss it.
And it crossed the 6 companion threshold, and
I've got an instant replay here, I think, because it's lagging on my side.
Oh, I like that.
Boom, there he goes. Yeah, and that's always the risk of having those companions. Not that Destalia himself seems all too concerned with his massive fellowship here, but I think that losing Gandalf on Mozdru's side is going to be just a little bit more painful.
And not to suggest too much jumping, but Stefan just plays both the Balrog and the Cave Troll against Carver, and I don't think he's got the Fellowship to support it right now.
Oh, yeah, this might be devastating. This could be game over, depending. Now, we do have, you have my sword on Frodo, which means that he can So a Merry plus Frodo could get past one cave troll. Do we have armor on? No, we have coat of mail. That's not the one you want on in this situation. An armor would make this trivial, but
yeah, he does have the Saga of Elendil, so he can take 2 losses here.
Mm-hmm.
And the Balrog doesn't have a skirmish boost, so you know that he's not gonna suddenly become an 18 on you.
Right.
But the cave troll is going to cause a real problem. I think somebody gets eaten, and I don't know this deck well enough to know who.
So he keeps Aragorn fresh. Lets Frodo take a couple hits.
Gandalf.
Well, so that's
Gandalf
what I was referring to before. Does he have staff? He does have staff. Yeah. So if nothing else, you have Merry on Frodo to keep him up. Oh, better find my soundboard. That's going to be real relevant here in a moment. Well, they lost Merry.
Yep,
but
Merry went down.
Yeah, kept all the important people alive. Sorry, Merry.
You know, that is very much what the other hobbits tend to be there for, outside of a pure hobbit hospital or stealth deck. But it always hurts to lose the important ones, especially when your fellowship is this small.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely doing a bit of a choky archetype with that Elrond and everything. And so Boromir showing, yeah, this is the armor you want to bring, bro.
Boromir, of course, not strong enough to tank either the cave troll or the Balrog.
Yeah, he would have died straight up. He doesn't have his sword or anything. But this particular Aragorn was definitely getting kitted out.
For sure.
So this is another V1 site. Valley of the Anduin. At the start of each skirmish phase, wound each unwounded character in that skirmish. Coming straight out of a sanctuary, it can, of course, undo a lot of the healing that's done there. And of course, it's also very very useful for the grind deck that wants to get as many wounds out as possible.
It's surprisingly good defensively too, if what you are running is something that's weak to swarms.
Yep.
You can Pathfinder that out before you walk. You're generally
takes out every
pretty
scavenger.
To
takes out
any
one vitality orc is gone.
You know, good way to either have them ditch their armories or get a fairly safe move through there. Obviously, if you're not facing a swarm, you want to make sure that you're not kicking yourself while you're down if you think you're likely to be needing that vitality.
Yeah. Tower's Assassin taken out. Poor old Parliament of Butterbur.
Yeah. He'll never remember it. It's okay.
And this
I
is
really
a pretty
enjoy
decent
seeing
swarm.
all of these exert to wound orcs as well. The scavenger one is not super uncommon, or the tracker one's not super uncommon, because of his other abilities and his ability to come out. But I don't think I've seen Orc Hunter, or there's a 4-cost version of him that is not on the
Orc
board.
Soldier, I think, yeah.
It has been a long time since I've seen a deck that really used those, at least in Fellowship. I watched somebody using Gothmog's Ward to good effect on them. Obviously, in a movie game.
Yeah, 6 characters here. The 2 weakest are a 5 and an 8. And
yeah, there's no Bounder on the field. No. If he doesn't have a buff for Frodo in his hand, I think this might be game.
Yeah. No, he's got Frying Pan, so he can knock out
2 wounds worth. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, he'll just take out the scouting band here, and then it's 5 to 5, and he'll be fine. The rest of these are all gonna, well, let's see. Legolas and Gimli are gonna take a wound from the site. Orc Hunters, wherever you put Orc Hunters is going to be painful. Got to avoid putting that on Boromir so that he's not exhausted, which is going to start becoming a problem.
Yeah. Hunter going on Gimli. No, Hunter's not going to be able to exert because he's going to get wounded by the site.
He's going to get hit by the site. Yeah, so that's definitely one of those two-edged swords there. But with 3 copies of sorry, what was that?
Where do you put the Ambusher? I'm just thinking as him because he's got the Frying Pan, so he could get 1 extra wound on Frodo, or he could guarantee a wound somewhere else. And
that's very true.
Don't know
you
the right place to put him.
Make sure that Gandalf gets hit. Try to start wearing through that vitality, because every single one of these is a lost skirmish already. Although Gimli Son of Gloin could exert.
Oh,
Looks
no,
like
I think
he's...
that's a good play on his part. Legolas was not a lost skirmish. He had the long knives. He would
Oh,
have
that's
been
right. Yes.
7 to the ambusher 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as he does these in the right order and doesn't make the ambusher too big before that skirmish. But I don't
That's true. Yeah.
think
So if
that's a threat
anybody
here.
gets exerted here, that could be a problem. But
Well, the strength bonus requires, is it 3 exhausted companions?
oh, that's
3
true.
exhausted
Yeah.
companions for
Strength
that
bonus
strength
is 3.
bonus.
It's the archer that's just 1, and that's not relevant at this point.
No, already past that phase.
This grind is definitely starting to do whatever the opposite of grinding to a halt is. We got those 3 under the watching eyes. That's going to be 3 more wounds, regardless of what happens here. Interesting. Going for the frying pan to kill him. I wonder if he's considering a double. Because we do have Gimli here that's going to be able to exert. Well, that's going to be
He'll
dangerous,
be exhausting himself to do it, though.
Yeah. If he does it, it's a dead hunter.
He doesn't have Bow of the Gladger mount, so he's not getting...
Or Gimli's Axe. Gimli's Axe would definitely make a difference here.
Yeah.
If he could win
Hand
that
off
and
some
then kill
braziers.
one of the orcs.
It's in that deck somewhere, based on the rest of his kit out.
Yeah. Well, Servant of the Secret Fire coming out, ensuring that Legolas doesn't take another wound. And both of those go out. Yeah, maybe he will go for it, because if this entire board gets cleared, that was a lot of orcs to play all at once. His hand is empty, actually, so he'll be drawing 8 cards, but...
He'll be dropping 3 exertions for the move, and then, as long as he can drop 1 orc, have 2 bowmen in play. That's going to be a really wounded fellowship, though.
Yeah.
Though, of course, it's going to be a really wounded fellowship next turn if Stefan doesn't think he's got a way of healing back up.
Another Servant of the Secret Fire. So both of them are down to down to the dredges of their hand, playing everything they've got. Yeah, but there he goes for that double move. It's risky because you have no idea what exactly the guy drew. I mean, not that he would have known anyway, but it's really rolling the dice on whether or not anything good gets pulled out. But yeah, that's a lot of vitality getting burned. We've now got...
If you don't think you're going to be able to recover, though, I don't know how many sleep cadresses he's running. I don't know, what his thought is on his chances there.
Who conceded? Carver conceded.
He dropped a bowman and had nothing else.
Bowman, but nothing else. But it's site 8. You might they're all exhausted. Your Toll Brandier could have totally eaten him alive.
I am unclear on that choice.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, unless he's pressed for time or something. No, I think that. I don't know about that. I'd have to watch the replay and see what he drew. But yeah, I think you still had a chance, man. Like you had just a perfectly loaded support area. If you think about the site 9, that's 3 archery from your orc bowman. If you have a single one of those big for every one of the big trackers that you throw down, the orc ambush troop, that's going to be +1 per, because all these guys are exhausted. I think you had him. I think you
did too. I mean, Boromir would have healed up before site 9, but
for sure, yeah. But no, I
think I think that for sure. That, I mean, I don't know what I don't know, right? But
yeah,
that certainly surprises me. The Madru's Dastali game ended as well, with Dastali walking to Site 9. I think Madru's never was able to...
Simply walking to Mordor with all 9 companions. Yeah, that's...
but we've got Nazgul and Uruk-hai on the other 2 tables, if you want to jump to one of those.
Okay, let's take a look here. So the errata Too Great and Terrible really coming out on the side of Enelin. So this particular one makes it so that if Bearer is exerted by a Free People's card, you exert the Bearer unless the Free People's player discards a card from hand of their culture. And so putting it on Arwen makes sure that she has less equal access to Gwimagle. And of course, Gandalf has all sorts of ways to use his vitality, but that Gandalf staff right there is now very painful to utilize. Either now costing 4 exertions to use the ability, or 2 exertions and 2 Gandalf cards from your hand. Looks like there's also...
I do actually have a question on the order of that. So Gandalf exerts twice.
Mm-hmm.
At what point does the extra exertions from Too Great and Terrible come into play?
It's going to be each time the exertion happens. So you could, in theory, if you thought that you could get away with just 2 vitality on him, you would exert once, and then on that first exertion, you would then either exert or discard a card. and then the second exertion would then cause it to happen again. So here we have that exact thing happening.
So he can get effectively 3 exertions if the third one exhausted him, but he can't do it with only 2 if he doesn't have a way of preventing the middle one.
Right, exactly. But it looks like that was a Site 9 win for Gary Gelly, managing to get through with a lot of these conditions on the table on his companions, but just still managing to squeak by. Very bloody Fellowship, but still surviving. And then we also have a Site 9 here, Basmelis, with a very healthy-looking Fellowship, with just about all the tools and trinkets that he might ask for. We have the Slopes of Emenhen. Looks like his opponent says, yeah, there's nothing I can do here. We've got a couple of fierce minions, but it really doesn't matter. Even if every single one of these guys fall, which they probably won't, given the amount of vitality we have on the field, yeah, that Fellowship is getting away.
Yep, I think that is accurate.
All right.
Well, that is our first round down.
First round done. All right, so let's take a look at the standings here. So Basmelis, Distalis, Stefan77, and Gary Gelly, and Chadwick. Chadwick got the bye. But those other 4 all won their games. And so we have Chrismy, Enolin, Carvier, and Modsdrew going into the lower section of the Swiss. And just as a reminder, let's hop onto the take a look at that blog post real quick. So the way that this is going to work for the in fact, how about you explain it, Mock? Because I think you're the one that designed it.
Sure. So the way that our circuit events are working leading into the World Championship this year are, instead of as we've done in previous years, having kind of set events for each type, including Decipher formats, with the winner getting an invite, that we're doing a series of events, all PC. There's going to be a total of 4 Fellowship tournaments, 4 movie tournaments, and 2 expanded tournaments, where you gain points as you play. You get a point just for participating. We want people to feel like that they want to join and that they're going to get something from it no matter what. You get a point if you win, and then depending on how many players there are, you get additional points for your placement in the top half, top quarter, etc.
So in this particular case, with our 9 players, the top 4 are all going to receive an additional point.
Yep, and then because there are more than 8 players... Nope, that's wrong.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm squinting at your screen. I don't have it up on mine.
Yeah,
so the winner will get 1 point for winning, another point for being in the top 4, and a point for participating. So there's 3 potential points to the winner of this event. Not potential. The winner will get 3 points of this event, with the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place players getting 2 points, and everybody else getting 1.
Yeah.
But we total these points across the tournament scene. We changed this at the last moment. It was originally your top 6 events, but we were looking at people's ability to potentially actually play those, and I think we reduced it to the top 4 events. So if you play all of them, we're going to look at the 4 where you scored the best number of points. So if you play all of the, if you play all 10 events, and you win one, come in second one, come in fourth one, and then do terribly in the others, we're going to look at those top scores. So you can keep playing if you want to keep trying. You can play only the ones that you really care about. If you're a Fellowship player or a movie player, you can play just those ones and go on the merit of your skill in that particular block. It's really up to you. And at the end of all of it, we're going to look at how many slots that we still have open. Of the 16 going into our World Championships, 2 are offered, of course, to last year's winner and runner-up, Basmelis and our Bronco. And we have a few slotted for live events. One of them went to the EU Championship in Prague. Is it last weekend? I think it was.
Yeah, last weekend.
I don't yet know the Discord name of that person to put them on our spreadsheet, but they are being offered 1 invitation, and we've got a couple of spots potentially for other live events. If you are hosting live events and you are interested in one of those, please let us know. But it will be somewhere between 12 or Yeah, somewhere between 10 and 12.
So I've held my tongue as long as I can, but what is going on in this game is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, no. Okay.
So Basmelis has an absolutely incredibly large fellowship getting dropped on Site 1, even without Prancing Pony. He then goes against Site 2, where a Cave Troll is dropped, manages to sacrifice Pippin to it, and then double moves with the Cave Troll on the table. So we have all sorts of carnage going on. Basmelis is known for these big bombastic openings. It came back to bite him in the 2023 World Championship, where he flooded the pool on Site 1 and his opponent killed him on Site 2. He managed to have an entire handful of trolls and just completely ate the entire fellowship. But that is in general the exception rather than the rule. Basmelis really loves to do these big fellowship marches. So both of the Unbound Hobbits getting sacrificed to that troll on subsequent sites, and everybody else taking a bit of a beating. But so who's going to end up absorbing this? Probably Gandalf getting the 2 wounds on there, unless he's going to do an early sacrifice on Sam. Yeah, but that double is bloody.
Yep.
There he goes, yeah. So that's all 3 hobbits sacrificed to that cave troll. Very hungry, very satiated cave troll at this point. Oh, wait a minute. I definitely need this.
We have a cave troll.
Extremely bloody. Extremely out there.
But as you said, he's got a penchant for pulling through on these. Even in 23, when he lost that first round against it, he fought all the way back and won in the end using that same strategy, same deck.
I almost thought I kind of wish that I could have betted the room with him at the same time, because in the finals, when he went up against who would eventually become the runner-up, he flooded again, and his opponent again, the same person who knocked him down into the lower bracket, played like 4 trolls, but it wasn't the 7 that he had drawn in that first game. And so while it was bloody, it was not nearly as game stopping. Both of these players getting lucky enough to draw, just completely naturally draw their copies of Aragorn and Gandalf, which is kind of crazy. Now, obviously, I didn't see how this Gandalf came down. Maybe it was with a Wizard's Never Late, but I'm kind of surprised that we have these sorts of openings with no Prancing Pony on the field.
Yeah, at least one of them isn't running Prancing Pony, so you've got to think there's more than the 1 copy of Aragorn in that deck.
And Prancing Pony is an interesting one because everybody knows that it's out there in the meta, and so a lot of people either plan around their opponent bringing it or plan on doing something to subvert it. I think in this particular case, that was intentionally put down to deny the opponent the ability to utilize it. Sam was almost certainly used to peel off whatever burdens were there in the bid. This might have been a 3-on-3 bid though, which came down to a literal coin flip.
It's risky if you're trying to deny Prancing Pony to run Farmer Maggot's Field though. So the new update for Merry Horticulturist in PC allows you to pull any ally. Which means you can pull a Hobbit Farmer and swap over to your own Prancing Pony.
That's true, yeah.
It's a few cards that you need to include, and they're dead otherwise, but if that's a key part of your strategy, it's not super uncommon.
So Stefan here trying to imitate Basmelis' mad dash to Site 3, and he might be getting punished a little more harshly here. We have a very, very pumped up Witch King here, getting +2 strength from each of the other Nazgul on either side of him. Plus the Pale Blade. That's going to get rid of the Trust Me As You Once did down here. Alaric Cantia has his ability to get rid of weapons. There's only 1 weapon on the field right now, but that means that now Gimli cannot be the one to take that. There's no more Twilight, so Atia can't pump himself up.
Gandalf can use Trust Me plus Son of Gloin's ability for Gimli to take out Atea, as long as no additional Twilight is added. Which will bring the Witch King down into territory where he doesn't overwhelm Gandalf on his first skirmish, but I'm not sure what he does on the Fierce. That looks like a bad idea.
Yeah, there's 3 other games going on, and I can't tear my eyes away from this one because there's quite a bit going on.
Yeah, I don't think it's wrong when we largely focus on a single game. I've got them all up, so I can shout out if something really obvious is happening that we want to switch over to. But being able to watch one of them all the way through and really kind of evaluate the decisions is something that we've had people comment on that they like for the Twitch streams. I wish, in a lot of ways, that there was more of us. If we could have, in this kind of event, if we had 8 commentators going, one for each table, that would be a really cool way of kind of getting a full recording, rewatching.
Yeah, and if you're watching this and you think that I could do that, like, contact us. Hop on the PC Discord and let us know. We can definitely help you get set up with OBS, and we can, if you're willing to join the PC, we can even give you access to the PC's own Twitch channel here. It would be really nice, at these events to be able to host multiple streams. One of the things that I've dreamed of actually is having the ability to do a newbie stream alongside the regular one, so you can have one that goes over the the deep decision making going on, and another that really just kind of uses them as a uses the games as a jumping off point for explaining the basic concepts of the game and leaving more basic terminology defined and stuff like that. So
I think that would be a really cool thing.
This particular decision has taken a long time on Stefan's part. Now, I will point out that this may be, I think you might be considering whether or not you burn Aragorn here. If you can't find a way through, Aragorn can take all 3 of these in the first skirmish, go down valiantly, and then you only have to worry about the second one. But nope, looks like he's not burning him just yet.
I think if you burn him in the first skirmish, you run that problem of Gandalf will be a 9, and even if Gimli knocks out one of the others, he can't survive the Witch King.
Right.
But I am really surprised to see this particular setup. I expected Atea to be against Gimli. Of course, I have no idea.
So Trust Me is almost certainly, Best Smallest Warning is his opponent. We do have that time, although I think I don't know if I used the particular timer that I should have on this. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Gimli's going to lose his axe.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that decision, but maybe it was really the best way forward is just let Cantea eat the axe. Puts him down to 6. Yeah, he would have. I mean, he wouldn't be 6 up against Atea. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, it's always one of those things. We're just not knowing their deck. Like, he could have drawn both copies of his axe and been looking at this as all right, I guess I can get it back next turn, when I heal up.
One of these days, I'd really like to have the ability for, like, at official sanctioned events like this, to be able to do like a commentary spectation that actually gives us access to look at both of their hands, so that we can see in real time what kind of decisions that they're doing. Obviously, most spectating would not be like this, and if we did that, we would definitely have to delay the stream to make sure that people aren't peeking in on other people. But
yeah, absolutely.
Well, that was definitely a bit of a bloodbath, but I'm surprised that he threaded the needle. Although that's an extremely wounded fellowship down there. I think they're going to be working from behind for the rest of that game. But let's hop away from these two and let's go see what the others are up to. Crispy and Gary Gelly up against each other right in the middle of a skirmish. We have Isengard being played by Crispy and Gary Gelly doing his elf Aloran deck, elf ally Aloran deck. We have lots of Saruman's ambitions here on the table. We have, what was that? That was a Hobbit Intuition coming out to cancel a skirmish to make sure that Frodo stays alive. This is all in Site 4, it looks like. Both sides of the table getting set up very nicely, I think. Both of the Galadriel once again on Greenleaf, putting it back to his classic Gatling gun level of power.
I really do appreciate the Lauren boost for Saruman on the table. I often get confused where the extra +1 is coming from because I forget he gets that, but it's such a thematic little update.
Which one, sorry?
So Aloran gets strength +1 for Galadriel, Celeborn, and Elrond, which makes perfect sense thematically. But he also gets strength +1 if Saruman's
on the table, yeah. Which, that's
sorry,
supposed
I've got a little bit of a cold.
Yeah.
But it's just so thematic. And the number of times that I've been spectating a game and just been like, why is he... Like, I was just looking and wondering, why was he a 12? I didn't see Galadriel.
It's kind of a soft use against Saruman. We also have that White Council card, which I haven't seen yet played this tournament, but that also makes it so that the first sentence of Saruman's game text does not apply, making it which is kind of a trade-off actually, so that you could in theory try to attack Saruman and actually take him off the table, but that also means that now his formidable strength and vitality can come to bear. Arwen getting
I think that one's
sacrificed
a
to the
real
Balrog.
double-edged.
Interesting. So we had enough vitality on Aloran that he could have tanked that, but he decided instead to cut Arwen out.
It was Daughter of Elrond. I wonder if she's just there as Nazgul defense, and he's recognizing that maybe...
With no Nazgul, yeah, there's that. That's not.
Yeah, he doesn't need her.
Yeah.
It's not terribly uncommon, I think, to see her played as a starting companion because the Nazgul are so scary at sites 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Even if she's not otherwise a major component of the deck. With the Elf Allies, I was wondering if maybe they had the Site 3 Arwen, but
right,
it was Daughter of Elendil or Daughter of Elrond.
So we have both of the healing versions of Elrond and Galadriel, both of which are able to heal up to 3 allies of their respective home site. And so Galadriel here was able to heal herself, Celeborn, and Orphan all at once. And now we have some of the new and improved Site 3 allies coming out. So these were all adjusted that instead of making a minion strength -1, which was just really pathetic in comparison to what the Site 6 allies were able to do, we pumped them up so that each of them work globally, -1 against anything, or against their particular race, either Orc or Uruk-hai. It's -1 for each elf you can spot. So up against Orcs right now, Golradir is able to hand out a -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strength on an Orc, which is almost certainly going to be able to get you out of a jam. Now he's only got the 2 vitality now, although that was a recent change. They started with 3 vitality, and we've reduced them because they did turn out to be extremely powerful. And unfortunately, we only have the Orc version out here while it looks like his opponent is running Uruk-hai, so he's only going to be able to pull out -1 vitality if that just happens to barely be enough to get someone out of overwhelm range. We do have Albert Drury here, protecting up against those Saruman's ambitions. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and Orphan, the archer who can dispatch Uruk-hai, so he's not terribly set up.
Yeah, definitely. And this really establishes the differences between these two, right? So Orphan is going to exhaust that Lurtz, I think, and then you're going to have Aragorn's bow come out to just snipe him and take him out. Like, and this just demonstrates how much more flexible and useful the Site 6 elves were. The Site 3s now have a way of actually comparing, which I think I'm fairly satisfied with how they've landed.
I haven't played them since the latest errata, but I was really enjoying them before that, and I was not trying to play the deck that abused them the way that they were being complained about. So I suspect I'm going to be really happy with their current state.
I actually saw yesterday, and I posted about this on the Discord. I saw somebody had one of these elves, and they had stacked Aeglos and the Tale of Gil-galad, or the Saga of Gil-galad, on them, which was very interesting to me, that it was such a powerful and useful effect that they were willing to use their one-off copies of both those cards to improve their vitality.
The Saga doesn't surprise me. I mean, if that's your big skirmish boost, having 2 of them is a big deal. Perhaps you're even running the Elrond that can heal a single ally twice instead of each one once.
But the Aeglos.
Aeglos, yeah.
The Aeglos was putting all those eggs in that basket.
Then maybe it's a good choice, but not putting out a Gil-galad if you've got him seems wild.
So they cleared the field and decided to double ahead to bridge. So we have Uruk Captain pulling that Lurch right back out. Mr. Albert Drury, for some reason, just being the excellent anti-Isengard card that he is. I've really never understood why he was so cracked. This random dude. I mean, this is the Peter Jackson cameo. The dude with the carrot walking around in Bree. He's on a blink and you miss it cameo there in Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, he's a card that's really kind of weird too. He's one of these all or nothings. He's really strong against Isengard because they're going to have a few key conditions and not a lot. He's going to do a great job clearing them. And he's good against Moria, but they've got a lot of ways to recur, so he's not, he's not another sleep Caladris. He's just kind of a good targeted. And then he does nothing against Sauron or Nazgul at all. I see him in a lot of these top decks, so there's clearly something I just don't know, but I always have a hard time finding a slot for him.
So Boromir exerting twice with his Blade of Gondor to take out that lure to make sure they don't have to deal with the Fierce. That's more resources being burned here, though. We have this exhausted set of allies up here, no longer have Orphan to fall back on, and so they had to take care of him the old-fashioned way.
This is the end of a double, though, and that Boromir is going to be able to heal himself up next turn.
That is true, yeah. So Estelle being used to just clear out the hand, try to get rid of some of these cards that he knows he's not going to need during the skirmish phase. That is one of the big, not going to need while he's playing Shadow. That is one of the big benefits of Estelle is, and it's something that we have seen quite a bit, is people running those lesser used Elven events that are only sometimes useful. Estelle gives you a use for them regardless, and so it's really led to a lot of Elvent decks in PC movie especially. But even here it shows the benefit of holding on to some of those more niche uses. Well, while they're building up on Site 5 and about to go into Site 6, which is usually a kind of a valley, let's move on to some of these others and see what's going on.
Our Chadwick Distali game just ended. You might be able to catch the instant replay if you've got the tab open.
Oh, nope. Too slow.
Nope.
So that was a death, looks like. Got completely taken out.
Yeah, Chadwick's grind.
Ground Distali, and Distali had all those companions out, so maybe that came back to bite him. But that Orphan Eating Machine was well willing to just grind through everybody. Yeah, that's a completely set up.
Chadwick runs a lot of Sauron grind too. He really knows what he's doing with that deck. Not that it's necessarily hugely different from others, but I think he runs it enough that he knows.
Yeah, and kind of showing how well Sauron can really take care of this. The fact that he took out all 9 companions is really impressive. That I don't care if you have all that vitality. We're gonna chew it up and spit it back out. Mazdu versus Kavir looks like there was a concession. Yeah, Kavir went ahead and conceded again. Looks like Frodo was very close to being to dying on his fellowship side. Yeah, looks like Kavir is willing to concede as soon as victory seems to be going away. He did that last round as well.
So I'm gonna have to watch the replay on that one because Frodo is nearly corrupted. I totally get why he conceded, but against Tentacles, and I've seen Tentacles put some burdens out to do Watcher assignments, but I truly didn't know they had a good potential to actually get a corruption off.
Yeah. That's something Monster has really been refining. I think we saw that he had those must do without hopes on the Balrog, adding burdens every time that Thrashing Tentacle loses a skirmish. You got a burden, and then there's one more card that we added that also gets you to add
adds burdens if you spot enough tentacles.
Right. It was guided by one purpose. I think we changed this from a condition to an event. Spot 3 tentacles to add a burden. Then you may make the freebios player discard a tentacle to shuffle a warrior card from your discard pile into your draw deck. So that's four burdens from that. You've got your 4 thrashing tentacles. That's 4 burdens each time they lose. So yeah, that right there could represent the almost corrupted Frodo there.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I'm gonna have to take a look at his deck. That sounds like a really fun one to play.
It makes me happy to see that we have a tentacle deck doing pretty well at at a championship level game here.
And today's promo for any players who play all the games in their event is a full art Watcher in the Water.
Oh yeah, let me go ahead and pull that up and show what the show that off. Where did I put it? Shoot.
So for anyone listening who's just likes collecting the various art cards, if you want to jump into this afternoon's game or event, all you have to do is play all the games in it, and you will be awarded one of these beauties.
Yep, so I'm sure Mazdu is salivating, looking at this beauty that he can now start including in his in his highly successful tentacle deck.
Absolutely. If he plays again this afternoon, he can grab 2 of them. I don't know if he runs 2 of them in that particular tentacle deck, but he'd have the option.
And as always, if you miss this particular event, it's not exclusive to this event. We also hand out essentially what are booster packs, digital booster packs that give you a chance to select from the vast history of PC art cards that we've handed out. So starting next month, this will go into the pool for those booster packs. So this is not your only chance, but it is your first chance. So we're down to just these 2 games, I believe. 2 of them have gotten knocked out. So we have Chris Me versus Gary Gelly, and we have Basmelis versus Stefan77. Both of them stalling out at around site 6. We have another very powerful Witch King, in this case the Tangwar version, coming down with our Masterwork Kentea. Looks like once again Stefan77 is needing to thread the needle against a very powerful, fierce set of minions. I'm sure that he's got some... Oh no, there's a Flaming Brand in the discard pile, so it must have been burned at one point to get utilized, or Kentea got rid of it, one of the two. But I'm sure that he's...
being one use in PC is, I think, one of the reasons that Nazgul are able to do so well.
That's true, yeah. So the original Flaming Brand essentially dumpstered the entire Nazgul... gosh darn it, stop doing that. The entire Nazgul culture. It was just completely unable to get any sort of traction when you could, on a whim, just drop 2 of these onto your biggest guy and completely go to town. So now you have to light it, essentially. So during the skirmish phase, you can make bearer strength +2 and damage +1 while bearing this item and skirmishing in Nazgul until the regroup phase, limit once per turn, and then you must discard it at the end of the regroup phase. So once it's been lit, you only have that one site to utilize it.
But 4 of those in a Decipher deck that ran Aragorn and Boromir was not a terribly uncommon sight.
Exactly, because the original was free, so even in the situation where you weren't up against Nazgul, then you would stick the Ranger Sword on Aragorn and give him a free +1 on the Flaming Brand, which is similar to what we see over here. We have a single Flaming Brand on Aragorn and a single one on Arwen, daughter of Elrond. Now, one of the changes that we did was that instead of Bear must be a man, it's Bear must be a ranger, and so now Arwen is able to walk around with that Flaming Brand.
Which I think was a nice thematic change. You know, it's in the woods camping kind of action.
It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because not only was it making it more thematic, it was also making sure that Éomer, third Marshal of Riddermark, could no longer walk around with it, which I think which I believe. So here's the original version. This was the original.
It wasn't Gondor version. Man. It was just man.
Yeah, it was just man. Decipher, I think, during that first block, was way too eager to save space or something, and always kind of went down to the race level. Like most of these like Shire cards are going to specify a Hobbit as opposed to a Shire companion, and yeah, there were a whole lot of Gondor cards that just said Bear must be a man. And so when the 2 Towers came out, you had all these powerful cards that were already proven to be extremely potent on Aragorn and Boromir. Now you have Éomer, third Marshal of Riddermark, also wandering around with armor and 2 copies of Flaming Brand, and Decipher kind of smacked their forehead and went, okay, enough of this. So they banned Flaming Brand, and moving forward, they were much more strict about the cultural enforcement that they put onto their cards.
Yeah, I always have a little bit of a mixed feeling with some of those. You know, on the one hand, why can't Aragorn wield a Rohan spear? But from a deck building perspective, I understand what they're going for. But thematically, it sometimes feels weird.
Yeah. So we don't know what exactly
setting up that fellowship there.
Yeah. So we have more of these Nazgul coming out, and of course, there's no reason for a Nazgul deck to not include Quaya. He's now gone up to the 6th level. That could result in, well, if we have an Quaya coming down, that could of course be a dead Legolas and a dead Aragorn, which would be quite devastating.
But only 5, not 5 burdens, so he'd get one or the other.
Right. Oh, okay. Fair point. So we have the V1 Fell Voices Call coming out that allows you to recur an item from your draw deck or discard pile. So we have that Pale Blade coming back out on the Witch King. So Trust Me As You Once Did is probably going to get ditched once again. I believe he's already got at least 1 copy in the discard pile. Sam is going to go out like a hero. He's going to take on both Nazgul at once.
Sam only ever goes out as a hero.
Stupid fat hobbit. It ruins it.
Opposite of that, I guess. But
we've only watched about half of this game, and this is the 3rd Witch King we've seen from Basmelis.
Yeah, these Witch Kings are just eating this Fellowship alive. Normally, Nazgul have a very difficult time getting out. Regular Fellowship has quite a lot of choke going on, and with the Flaming Brands being around, even when you do finally manage to get your Nazgul on the table, they are very ineffective. But this particular format, I think, is looking to be a lot more Twilight heavy. People are running these giant fellowships and trying to run to the end, and so Nazgul are a much more attractive option than they are in the base game.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a lot of Flaming Brand aside. I think it's far more of a meta fact. It's not like you couldn't run a slim, Ranger of the White City and Hobbits deck in PC. It just doesn't take advantage of a lot of the new power cards.
Right. And it should be noted that almost all the choke cards have been nerfed. What is it? Build the Pony was altered so that it now must be born by Sam.
Sam only.
Yeah, so that restricts your deck building a little bit. Heir to the White City was reduced from removing 2 to removing 1. I think just about every single one of the choke cards, the talent for not being seen, that one, talent.
I fully understand that errata. It drives me crazy in Movie Block because it means you can't run it and a sword and a escape without being Grima bait suddenly.
Yeah. Now, I'm looking forward, maybe we can spoil a little bit of what we're talking about, but I'm definitely looking forward to some of the changes that we have coming with V3, where I think Grima is going to become a lot more manageable, and so those sorts of considerations are not going to be quite as problematic for PC Movie.
I think he's going to become a lot more manageable, and maybe this is just hopeful, but I think he's also going to become actually more useful in decks. I think because he won't be the strict meta-defining card anymore, we're going to see more decks where the 1 or 2 slotted in actually do their thing instead of be there purely as a threat.
Right. Let me see if I can find it.
At least that's my hope.
Right.
Because I like multicultural decks, and I don't like what Grima did to them in Movie.
Yeah, they were really kind of oh yeah, Stefan77 has been making a lot of slow decisions. He's gonna have to be
Besmalis being a great sportsman there with reminding him to keep an eye on it.
Yeah. Just hopping over real quick while he makes his decision, we have Chris Me versus Gary Gelly. Gary Gelly getting absolutely ripped apart by these Urukai. Making a risky double.
And walking anyway.
You've already got a troop of Urukai on the table. And
he's got Bounder.
Yeah, he does have Bounder. All the allies are exhausted. You have a Saruman's Ambition on the table. Just a wisp of Cloud coming out.
Yeah.
He's playing Saruman.
And a second troop.
Yeah, this is not looking good. They're both going to be fierce. We have a Tower Assassin coming in. That's going to take out the Bounder. Oh yeah, that was a risky move. But I can understand that maybe he felt like he had to because he was not going to be able to get through his opponent's fellowship here. But yeah, no, that has got to be game unless he's got.
I mean, he could be sitting on 4 paths. You never know.
Yeah, sure. You never know. I mean, yeah, those could be 4 paths and a Hobbit Stealth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Paths, for those who aren't aware, is power according to his stature. This is a card that allows the Ring Bearer to add a burden and wound every minion skirmishing that character. Now, both Troop of Urukai have 4 vitality, so you would need all 4 to get through that, but.
Well, down to 3.
Yeah, Legolas being able to take out the Tower Assassin because he exerted twice to just get rid of the Bounder, which I don't know was necessarily a good thing. I think he could have just exerted once to take out the Bounder, because the Bounder has to exert to utilize his ability, right? And
he does have to exert to utilize his ability. There's a few ways of healing a Bounder during the skirmish phase, but they're pretty rare. To see in the table.
Not that it really mattered how much vitality was there on Legolas, but if there was that Tower Assassin still here, so we have Hobbit Intuition coming out. Yeah, that Assassin would have made all the difference here.
Well, they're both fierce. He's still going to survive both of them next round.
And both of them are damage +1, so
both
even
of them. Yeah, he's Oh, is only one fierce?
No,
Oh, no.
he's only allowed to assign one, so the other one has to
Right.
be assigned by his opponent. We have a Hobbit Stealth coming out. How many of these cards are going to keep him alive? Is he going to
If
do
I'm
it?
counting right, it doesn't matter.
No.
I think he corrupts even if he survives the overload.
Yeah, so I think he was toast anyway. But yeah, so that Tower Assassin misplay perhaps really didn't end up making a difference, but it might have. Okay, Basmelis is decked out. He's got nothing left in his deck. He's only got the 4 cards in his hand. But Glamdring being used to double check what was in his opponent's hand. Toll Brandir coming out. A couple more. It's always painful to get your Goblin Armories here at the end when they don't matter. His opponent has only 23 seconds left on the clock, constantly clicking as fast as he can to get past all these things that he's trying to play. Toll Brandir being activated. No, those are just played from hand. So Toll Brandir being used just for one more. This is actually a playstyle that Basmelis himself was the trailblazer on, just throwing in these one-cost trackers. But yeah,
did he run out of time?
No, he was that a concession? Yeah, he knew that with 6 on the table, that was not enough. And these are all kind of wimpy. And it is really unfortunate that he had drawn those 2 ambushers so late. If he had played them earlier in the game, then they'd all be in the discard pile. He might have had 2 other orcs plus the 3 ambushers being played out, which was Basmelis' own tools being used against him. He used that to great effect during the first PC World Championship in 2023. But okay, so that's all of our games done. And in fact, we are so far behind that the next round has already started. Let's just hop over and take a look at the standings real quick before we hop into these games. So Basmelis and Chadwick have both won twice, or Chadwick had a bye last time and won his game now. But it looks like just about everybody else has gone very mixed. Distali, Stefan77, Crispy, Gary Gelly, Mozdrew, and Edelden all sitting on 1-1, and Carveer having bringing up the rear with 2 losses.
Very close middle of the pack there.
Yeah.
And in an event like this, where it is exactly the right number of rounds for Swiss, if you're competing for first, the bye doesn't matter.
Yeah.
A bye can be a harsh thing to be dealt if what you're trying to do is, having lost an early game or a middle game and wanting to be able to compete because you lose the strength of schedule. But if Chadwick can get undefeated to the last round, that bye will make no difference as to whether or not he can be first or not.
Right. So Crispy, once again, flooding the Twilight Pool. We have Elrond getting played. We have Aragorn getting played from Prancing Pony. And then, of course, he pulled Arwen, looks like. So the Site 3 Arwen that was errated along with the other Site 3 allies, that rather than having a hard stop of you need 3 allies to get -3 or nothing, now she gets a graduating -1 for each home 3 ally you can spot, which is much more lenient on what the Free Peoples has to do. But all that plus Wimegal plus Ranger's Sword plus Frying Pan, quite a few things getting dropped all on one site.
We've seen a lot of Frying Pans this game, or this event, and very few stings. I wonder how much people are just really expecting to see all of the Moria Swarms, because we do have some, but they're not as prevalent as maybe they once were.
Yeah.
We've got
and it's always difficult, chicken and egg problem. What were people expecting the Moria, and so they included the Frying Pan, and it did not turn out because people saw how many Frying Pans were coming out, and they were like, hey, I can go Nazgul instead, and totally mess that up.
Right. But it's nice to see what variety we've got here. We were talking, I forget which channel, but the other day there was a conversation around the variety of dex types that we see in Fellowship PC compared to strict Decipher, and I think that's really showing here. We're not seeing as much variety as maybe you could. I think there's only 1 pipe we deck in here. We don't have any Hobbit Hospital. There's no dwarves to speak of. But we've got every culture represented on the shadow side. And I think every culture
is true,
doing pretty well. None of them are just in the bottom here.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to think about something that we can do for Hobbit Hospital. I know that we have made some moves that have made it a little weaker than it could have been. And although we did buff dwarves, we're still not seeing any of the dwarf decks here. We do have a couple of prominent Gimlis, but no major dwarf actions. So that may be something that we'll have to address in future rounds.
Yeah, it's probably the wrong time to dive into that conversation, but I've been playing a decent amount of Hobbit Hospital lately. I've definitely got some ideas, because they're definitely not where they used to be in Decipher's deck.
Yeah.
They're not unfun. They're not just losing, but they don't have that feeling like, oh yeah, I can just get through this.
And a lot of them probably aren't enjoying the fact that we did issue, because of the fact that the home 3 allies were doing so well, we did issue a couple of buffs to the anti-ally tools out there, and Hobbit Hospital did not benefit from that.
That said, Merry Horticulturists and Sam, who pulls items, I forget what his subtitle is, are a big boon to that deck right now.
Yeah, so Merry Horticulturist used to be able to pull just Farmer Maggot, which was just this side of completely useless, and so we changed it to instead take any Shire ally into hand. So that is that now that even sees use in PC Fellowship because, sorry, PC Movie, because people will use that to pull Tom Bombadil out. But it definitely could have its uses in a Hobbit Hospital deck.
Yeah, you always have the right one. You don't need to run, every copy of Bilbo. You just gotta make sure that you don't play him until you've got Consorting with Wizards, so he can't get murdered.
Yeah, by a Tower Assassin, or by the new adjustment to which Urk was it? Not Urk Savage.
Yeah, I know what he looks like.
Yeah, that's part of the problem, and actually that phenomena is entirely why the wiki here has this thumbs tab, because sometimes you can remember what a card looks like but not what it's called, and so this gives you just a compressed version of the image. And so I can come down here to where the Isengard cards are. Oop, lagging a bit on my boy. Yeah, and so then it's possible to just scroll through and be like, well, which one was it that looks a particular way? He might not have been in set 1 is the problem. He might have been in set 2 or 3.
Oh, I don't know. I just organized my set 1 cards too, and I feel like I should remember whether or not he was in there, but I'm not sure. But yeah, the more higher prevalence of ally hate, whether it's the Tower Assassin or Fear or whichever Nazgul one wounds every ally, is definitely a problem for Hobbit Hospital today.
So I'm noticing that Crispy has that deadly combination on that Aragorn, both Blade Tip and Black Breath. Aragorn's bow doing almost no help in a combo like that.
I was about to say he could pull some Atlas, but he doesn't have any way of healing him. Oh no, he's walking into a sanctuary. Yeah. He'll be able to heal before. No, he won't be able to heal. He's just gonna die.
Yeah, because that Black Breath. Yeah, if he doesn't. Yeah,
with Elrond looking over him. What a.
Yeah, wrong Elrond. If it was the other, well, no, the other Elrond couldn't do anything either. Well, the other Elrond could have potentially had Vilya and then gotten rid of Black Breath and then healed him up in the regroup phase.
And then healed him in the regroup phase.
Yeah. So here he is, Uruk Raider. He was in set 3. While an ally is in the dead pile, this minion is strength +3 and fierce. That's standard. That's what Decipher had. But we added each time an ally exerts, you may spot another Isengard card and exert this minion to wound that ally. And so that is that comes in handy up against these site 3 guys. Fort of Bruinen, of course, very famous Nazgul site, being able to basically play that Nelia for free. So the Witch King only had to pay for himself with the copious Twilight tax being paid by these giant fellowships coming through. V1 Pippin coming down, much more useful than his standard. Sorry, go ahead.
We're seeing a lot of really large fellowships in this event. It's been a while since I've seen regular over 6-size fellowships in Fellowship Block.
Yeah.
And K is so prevalent that it just seems pretty rare, but we've got them all over the place today. Please keep talking about my favorite Pippin, though.
Yeah, no.
Didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, so the V1 Pippin here, exert Pippin to prevent a skirmishing Shire companion from being overwhelmed unless their strength is tripled, and if you can spot 3 Frodo Signets, then you also make them strength +1, which pumps their overwhelm threshold even further. We've only got 2 Frodo Signets. The Witch King's ability getting pinged, but there's nothing on the table for him to actually get rid of. So his opponent has to pass through that. What is this, round 3?
This is round 3. This is our final round for the day.
Final round for this. So we've actually got 4 rounds on this. This is a because we had the 9
That's right.
players.
We had a 9th person join.
Uh-huh.
Yep, you are absolutely correct.
So over here, Distali versus Stefan. We have Stefan pulling out a very dangerous looking Moria. We have the Flame of Adun Balrog, and with enough Twilight that even after the Cave Troll gets played, he's going to be able to exert and remove 2 to play an Orc from the discard pile. Out comes the Scavengers. Scavengers pulls the Goblin Scimitar. Goblin Scimitar pings our 3 armories, which all add up to being able to pay for himself.
Draw another card and do it again.
He's just going to keep going. Yeah, this is a classic Moria Twilight engine. And now he's finally out of Twilight. 2 very big
is running
boys
Gandalf, can probably wipe that field at some point this game, but with 47 cards in deck, it might be a little while before he draws a sleep.
Yeah. So we have Last Alliance on both Boromir and Aragorn. This is the V1 Boromir redeemed. He's able to become Defender +1, and then he's Strength +2 for each minion he's skirmishing, so the more guys that are piled on top of him, the stronger he gets, which makes it very difficult to overwhelm him. Not impossible, but more difficult than usual.
I'm really happy to see him seeing play in an event like this. He's not one of the ones like Estelle or a Lotarian where I feel like he's in half of the Fellowship decks you see when you spectate a game.
Yeah.
But I really like his concept. So I'm pleased to see him on the table.
He was an 11th hour change. As we were finishing up the images for release right before V1 was dropped, I had the idea to change him from, because it used to be that he was, I want to say, he had text that said something like he's Strength +2 for each minion after the first, and we changed it instead to that 5 Strength base level and then +2 for each minion, which made the text a little bit simpler, but it also gave him that very thematic moment of, like when he's not fighting somebody, he kind of drops to his knees and he's, breathing heavily.
Oh yeah,
like that's, I really like that, the way that matches up with the thematics there.
That ability plus his Last Alliance is going to get him through the Cave Troll fight.
Yep.
Stolly survived such a large hit at Site 5 here very cleanly, I think.
Right.
He did
and
solid setup.
Would it be mad to just run through it?
I don't know that it would be. The Cave Troll would definitely be a problem, but he's got the Vitality on the table.
The Balrog would be going away.
Most of it. Balrog will
now it's possible that he doubled to get to this position because we haven't been watching this whole time. But
yeah, I don't know the answer to that one. Cave Troll would probably eat somebody, but he's at 6 companions, and that's not necessarily the worst thing to volunteer.
Right. Very stacked Aragorn here. He's got just about everything he wants. He's got that armor. He's got that sword. He's got a bow. He's got a flaming brand. About the only thing that you might possibly want after that is the Last Alliance of Elves and Men. But if this deck isn't running that many elves, then it wouldn't be all that big a boost anyway. But
against the Sauron Grind opponent, you want 4 Atlas.
Yeah. Yeah, Grind says, I don't care how many items you're holding, bro. They're about to get very heavy.
Yeah, your stuff's real cute, but can you just walk and not be sad?
And here, armor really showing off why you really want it. This Balrog is, of course, very dangerous with 4 wounds normally going on the table. But with an armored up Aragorn, he's just going to take 2 hits to the face and not care at all. That armor can really devastate any strategy that relies on damage +1. And in this particular case, I think it was only played because, why not include a copy of the Balrog in a format where every single Site 5 is going to be a Bridge of Khazad Doom.
It might not always be your best play at Site 5, but if you have your opponent walk into the first kind of bomb site and you don't have a great hand, being able to drop a 17 fierce damage +1 is well worth the card slot.
Right. So Distali has not gotten much of his grind set up here. It hasn't been slept. He's got a Gaze of the Eye in the discard pile, but he's also got one on the table, so that could have been a Reconcile himself. All those important conditions sitting on the bottom of his deck, I think. That's not really what he wants to see.
No, it's a hard one for him.
Without all the wounds on the table, these trackers aren't all that impressive. They they're able to catch up, but not do much else.
Yeah, if you can't keep your conditions out or get your conditions out, I think that the Sauron Grind Trackers really struggles.
Yeah, and so
their only skirmish event to boost actually win those skirmishes requires your opponent to have burdens in Fellowship block. There is no static, +2, +4 kind of skirmish event for them.
Yeah,
it's
so that's
only
the enduring
-1
evil,
from
I think.
burden.
Yeah,
I think that is true.
Spot X burdens to make a character skirmishing a Sauron arc strength -X, which can be devastating. But yeah, if you don't have them, then
it can be absolutely incredible if that's what you're building up. Even 4 burdens on an opponent -4 is huge, because that's a lot like a +8 when you're looking at an overwhelm.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you get further and further into it and have 6, 7, 8 burdens, it's just that much better. But
now,
early on,
unlike his Sauron, unlike his Shadow side, though, his Fellowship is looking very good with 3 different Site 3 allies out now. Arwen is now making all of her opponents -3 strength, and then on top of that, you've got the ability to put down orcs, which up against a Moria Swarm is always going to be useful. Aristor is not going to be as useful, but she's there to grant the additional minus strength on Arwen there. Tale of Gilgalad coming out on Greenleaf doesn't yet have his bow, but at least now this means that he can use his ability twice. And when you're up against a Moria, you might actually end up with the second clause kicking in here, where it says exert him again unless he bears a ranged weapon, or you can spot more minions than companions. So that very well could kick in. We've got
lets you even up the field a bit.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of Twilight though, going into even a Sanctuary. Normally Sanctuaries are a bit of a breather, but that 17 Twilight coming out, and Moria is going to be able to use all of it. He's got all the tools that he wants. They are coming on the field. Relics of Moria, 3 copies of Goblin Armory. This is probably going to be a pretty decent swarm.
Yeah.
Foul Things pulling out Cave Troll of Moria. I guess he decides to go for big rather than wide. Tall rather than wide, I should say.
Well, I mean, that was kind of Fell Thing's original real use before it was able to do any card. It just grabbed you the Cave Troll and maybe the Watcher, but it could only be played at Site 4.
Well, I say that, but he's still going. That Moria engine's still trucking along.
There's a lot of Twilight there.
Yeah. Secret Sentinels, on the other hand, saying, we're going to get rid of... What was that? Okay, both copies of They Are Coming. Interesting. So that's 3 scimitars. That's probably all the scimitars that are in the discard pile. Yeah, so there's 3 runners left, but there's not much else that he probably could have pulled. Those 4 cards not being sacrificed to They Are Coming, so they're probably important Free People's cards.
Yeah, he's not really any of the Cave Troll's gears either, because he's got the Twilight to start playing them with relics.
Mm-hmm. So I think we're probably going to see Cave Troll on Gandalf, because he's got the Vitality for that first hit. And then all the rest of these should be able to be handled pretty handily. We have Galadriel if we absolutely needed to do a sacrifice, but I don't think that's really going to be necessary. Arwen is going to be able to take out one of the, probably the bigger Goblin Scavengers over here. Boromir, if he needs to, could take on these 2, but you don't want to hand over wins because both of these Goblin Swarms are down here. And so if you can at all avoid letting either of these Scavengers go on there, that would be good. Runner, you also don't want to be there because that's free Twilight that can be played at any time. So really the big one to worry about here is the Cave Troll. Now, none of the other Site 6 allies are out yet, and there is a chance that Site 7, of course, is Anduin Confluence, and so you don't necessarily want to... Interesting. So is Aragorn getting burned here? Or he could simply use his ability. Yeah.
Yeah, if he's dropping 3 cards from hand, he could just...
Interesting. Tale of Gilgalad getting ditched to win the skirmish, to ensure that Goblin Swarms does not get stacked. Estelle using his ability. Asphalloth was ditched. Another copy of Galadriel was ditched. And then Golradier making a -1 strength, coming in clutch.
Well, and there's
and then he
being
uses
able
it
to
again
work for
anyway.
anything.
Why are you doing? Why use the vitality? I mean, I guess you may as well, right? Like Elrond's going to heal him right
he'll
back
heal
up.
it back up.
All right. Well, none of the.
Well, that cave troll is fierce, so he
Cave Troll's
maybe
going to come
could have
back,
saved
but
it if he needed it for later.
Gandalf has the vitality. He could just take it to the face, and none of the swarms got a single.
Oh,
no! Yeah,
sacrificing
sacrificing the
the
Galadriel. I did bring that up as an option. If he thinks that none of the Site 6 guys are going to come through, and in reality, Lady Endomiel only cares about those Home 3 guys. Oh, he skips through the Sanctuary?
Wow, cave troll on the table, no Aragorn's bow to finish him off.
Yeah, well, you do have Greenleaf, though. Greenleaf could... that could totally be worth it. 2 exertions on Greenleaf to take out the exhausted
nope.
Cave Troll.
No archery phase.
Oh, yeah, no archery phase because he moved to
Wilderland.
Wilderland. Oh, he might have been banking on something else. Interesting. All right, well, now we're going to see if the Moria engine has enough gas in it to swarm again, because this needs punished. That is hubris of the highest order to double through a Site 6 with a Cave Troll on the table. Although,
And he extra exerted his...
Yeah, and he already used the -1 strength that he didn't need to use. That could actually come back to bite him very hard here.
He sure could.
He's already ditched
Aragorn...
a couple of...
healed from Elrond.
Yeah. And he ditched an extra elf card too. I'm not sure about this.
I wonder if it was a last-minute call or potentially even a misclick. But
because this is a dead companion, right?
It's got... Well, no. Aragorn was able to heal from Elrond at the end of
okay.
last regroup phase.
All right. And just to flex even more, Quomegal just ditching even more cards. Memory of Many Things. Okay, yeah. So his opponent doesn't have any elves out, and he's not running a Lauren or anything, so he knows that's not useful.
Yeah, cycling like crazy, but he's still got 31 cards at Site 7.
Yeah.
I don't know how big that deck started, but either very, or he's not been cycling this well throughout the whole game.
So his opponent now goes from being ahead to being behind at a time that you really wouldn't expect it. Fully healed Fellowship, though, just that one little wound on Frodo. Everybody's tools coming out. Look at this. Galadriel handing out gifts left and right.
It's such a hard double here, though. So he just fell behind unexpectedly, but even if he doubles...
He can't end the game, yeah.
He can't end the game. He could try to force Destali to double. Or he could rely on the Site 8 that makes you stop if you spot 5 orcs.
Mm-hmm.
If he is comfortable, he can get 5 out. And I think he probably is, but with those they are comings off the table, maybe not.
I think Stefan has to double. He can definitely take care of this easily enough. Morgul Hunter is going to stay on the table, but he's got Sam Proper Poet. He's got these extremely loaded guys, and in fact, with Gimli's Battle Axe and Bow of the Galadriel both on the table, there's a pretty decent chance that
a lot of extra wounds out there.
Yeah, a lot of these guys can get wiped. And the grind is only just barely starting to come together.
Him being fully healed, but for one exertion on Frodo walking into Site 7 is a unfortunate state for a grind opponent.
Grind does not want to see that. Now it all comes down to the strength of their minions. Now, we do see it being augmented a little bit here with that Morgul Hunter, which is a great meta call here with how many of these giant fellowships are coming through. But it's still going to be just that single wound. Bow of the Galadriel coming out, probably... Okay, yeah, putting him within death range of Glamdring, because Glamdring makes Gandalf damage +1. So Gimli's going to start wearing down that Morgul Hunter.
Yeah, he's not going to die this site, but maybe it'll be enough to...
take him out next site, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he has to double.
He's got to, yeah.
Ooh. When the Fellowship moves to the Hitwell, each Shadow player may draw a card for each companion over 4, so that's 2 cards.
Yeah, 2 cards for each of them. Finally getting some of those exertions, but...
Yeah. Sight goes off, so now he's got 10 cards in hand. Another Orc Bowman. Scouting band with another under the watching eye. It might just be too little too late, though. Yeah, this isn't going to hurt him at all. So now, Distali's in a very awkward position where he has skipped over the Sanctuary. He has to double if he's going to win.
He has to
His
double.
grind is not... It's not grinding. Blender's stuck.
Yeah, because when Stefan moves to site 9, he's going to get 3 exertions and 2 archery wounds, which he can comfortably place around before fighting whatever is dropped.
Mm-hmm.
You need a very, very special hand to be able to make that uncomfortable for him right now. So yeah, so Distali has to double.
Not even hate could save him. Because there's just not... What are you going to do? Kill a Gimli? Who cares? Like, let's...
Right. Hate could stop Sam from becoming Defender +1. It's not the worst position to be in if you've managed to swarm out with your small trackers.
Right.
Site 9.
And it's almost certainly Nenhithwell there, so he's going to be playing those 3 trackers, but I don't know that they're going to do him any good. He's got... now, his whole deck is in the discard pile, practically. So we do have all 4 copies of Orc Ambush Troop there, it looks like. He's also got the smaller ones if he doesn't have enough Twilight.
Fleshing out the Fellowship, drawing some cards.
4th copy of Goblin Armory. Sleepcare just say what? We got an exhausted Aloran. He's not going to be able to do it.
Why wasn't he able to heal Lauren during that move? He's got Gwemigil on the table. Or Gwahir, rather.
It's when you move to the opponent's site. And he didn't move to
Oh,
the opponent's
because he's
site.
not moving to
moved
site
his
9
own-
yet.
yeah.
He's moving to site 8. He's trying to catch
He
up.
moved to his own. Okay, we have both Cave Troll's Chain and Cave Troll's Hammer. That chain... Oh my goodness. So actually, this is a situation where the buff to Greenleaf is actually a nerf. Because even if Legolas exerts, normally in this situation, you would exert Greenleaf to hit someone else. And so then there wouldn't be a second piece of archery. But now there's that guaranteed arrow that's going to go on Cave Troll.
Well, only if... oh, no. Yeah, regardless, right?
Yeah. Like, why wouldn't you? Yeah. Although, of course, you could just pick to skip the archery phase, right? So I think that's probably what it's going to do because there's not really any good archery options here. None of the Site 6 allies appears to be coming out.
Yeah, because that chain will take out Estelle or Orion.
Well, it can only attack a archer companion, and there's no bow on Aragorn, so he's not...
okay.
Yeah, he's not vulnerable to this.
I will learn my cards better.
Chain is something that you don't see all too often. There was a way back when we were reworking some of the cards. There was a card that lets you play Moria items from your discard pile, and so there was a brief moment where it was meta to pull it out, but then that got patched out.
I think it's the relics. Relics of Moria on the table right now allows you to play any Moria possession.
Right. No, it was one of the events that we reworked. It was the one that was the the Sauron Moria event.
What is the Sauron Moria event?
Had to... Let me think if I can...
It's a Moria or a Kai event to draw cards. Oh, it lets you play items from your discard pile to wound archers. I think that's still there.
Well, we changed it so
Hate and
that...
Anger or something like that?
Sorry, what was it called?
I think it's Hate and Anger or something along those lines.
Hate and Anger might be the Isengard.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's part of this cycle, though, so I think it must be set 3 then. Malice. That was it. So it's now to play an item from your discard pile. Oh, we changed it to a maneuver event. It used to be an archery event because that's what the original was. That's what it was. And so when you played this... So because it was an archery event, it was after the Free People's player had the chance to choose to skip the archery phase or not. And so that particular part of the card did not trigger. And so you could play it and like... So you could play this after they have already loaded up like 3 Gondor Bowmen and then just murder anybody you want. Well,
yep, that
Greenleaf or
that makes
Aragorn,
sense.
But
Yeah, I was playing around with Malice a little while ago, but it not being a shadow phase play means you don't benefit from the item triggers.
That's a
for
fair
Moria.
point. Yeah. Didn't even
Um,
think about that. There's actually probably no reason to make it maneuver. We only just bumped it a little bit away from archery, but yeah, probably should have just made that a shadow, huh?
Yeah, if it was shadow, it would let you grab some scimitars and kind of continue the cycle with it.
Right.
It still only wounds archers, right? It's not like it too small on the Twitch screen. I can't actually read it well enough to say for sure how it works.
So that absolutely loaded up cave troll eating Gandalf.
This is still just the side 8. He still needs to double if he's going to pull this out.
We have a cave troll.
Plummy, you fools.
The soundboard is wonderful. I don't remember that from the previous streams.
It's something that I keep forgetting to use. I set it up ages ago, and I put a bunch of what I thought were decent sound lines on here. But I should probably ask people for what the best quotes are we can put in here. We've got some good ones.
You have no power here.
Now for wrath, now for ruin, and the Red Dawn.
Sadly, no Rohan around here, although we have had quite a few charging fellowships, so maybe it would have been relevant anyway.
I see it's there in spirit.
Back on the menu, boys.
Oh, looks like Estelle is going down as well. I don't know if he can double.
Yeah, with this many things on the table. Although,
I'm not
hang on.
sure that
what
he
happened?
can
What happened to
survive
his support area here? Did I miss like a Secret Sentinel's getting played or something? Relics got killed. Armory got killed. He's going for it.
He is.
22 Twilight, but there's only one Goblin Armory on the table, and the Relics has been removed. There's no there coming. No tracker. Oh, yeah. Here comes some trackers. But they're wimpy. They're the one Twilight trackers. Oh, man.
That's a lot of Twilight to leave on the field here.
Yeah. So we have our Tale of Gilgalad on Golradir. So we've got 2 orcs getting smashed by that. But this is going to be close. Now, interestingly, there are way more minions than there are companions. He's got to choose. So
yeah, he
could take out 2 guys, but then that last arrow bit is going to go on the cave troll, and then Greenleaf is going to die. So
and it would only be 1 because there's an armory on the table. He can stop
one
of those hits.
Oh, right, yeah. So these guys are all 2 vitality. So you got to decide: is taking 1 minion off the table worth sacrificing Greenleaf entirely?
It looks like we didn't skip it, so Destali must think it is.
Yeah, I think he's going for the bigger guys, just getting 10 strength off the table. So that's going to be that. He exerts, takes out the Goblin Scavengers, and then that last arrow is almost certainly going to go on Cave Troll, and then Greenleaf is going to get whipped off the table. Whopping. All right, so now we do have ourselves a Defender +1 Boromir. He kept Merry alive as opposed to Gandalf, I think specifically for this. Although there is another Aragorn signet on the table, so I don't think it would have made that big a difference. But
well, Merry can lose his skirmish as long as he doesn't get piled on by the second ambusher and be usable.
Yeah, so he can apply his 3 strength somewhere else. Okay, and Arwen's alive, so Troll goes on Arwen. So long as so just make it absolute
those
certain.
Double exertions over there. Frodo's going to overwhelm these guys.
I mean, that's a little bit of a flex, right?
Just a little.
Okay, yeah, so he's made it out just fine.
Yeah, Boromir dies at Site 9, as he should.
Yep.
And then the Cave Troll eats Merry, probably.
20 Twilight not being able to be utilized. I think if that Relics had still been on the table, that would have made all the difference. I think he could have been able to get the engine going, but nope.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Risky move, but he made it. He pulled it off. is that the last game? That was the last game. We have just totally ignored what was going on in all these other situations. Looks like there was a corruption on the side of Inolan.
Tentacles pulled off a corruption. And the Basmalis Chadwick game, I didn't see the details, but it ended with both players with 0 draw deck.
Look at that. Yeah, drawing everything down to the wire. And then it looks like Basmalis did manage to managed to fight his way through a bunch of trackers. The grind not grinding over here. Looks like he's about as well set up as Distali was there by the end, but and definitely a very exhausted Fellowship here. I'm not seeing any. Let's take a look at Chadwick's discard pile. Yeah, not seeing any of the Orc ambush troops coming out. And none of them were discarded right there at the end, right? So they didn't come out. That's kind of devastating actually, because this is exactly what the Orc ambush troop wants to see, right?
Yep.
They would have absolutely wiped the floor. I think that came down to draw luck, or even just making sure that there wasn't enough Twilight to be able to do anything with it.
Quite possibly, though. 2, yeah, could have been only 3 minions and 2 of them be the ambush troop, but.
So Basmalis once again flexing his world championship. He is sitting here at 3 wins in 3 games, so he has gone undefeated so far. Distali, Mazdru, Chadwick, and Inolan sitting at 2-1 apiece, and Stefan Chrismy and Gary Gelly at 2, and Carvier each at 1-2. And we have the final round going in. These are back to back to back to back.
Yeah, no break in between these, which I think is really nice for kind of the overall day when we're not doing 7 or 8 rounds like we do in the World Championships themselves.
Right. I mean, it is kind of nice that we started at 8 o'clock my time, and so now it's going to be right around 10:30 when we wrap up here, which is much more manageable rather than a 4-hour situation. But it definitely means that you got to have a lot of stamina. You barely get to take a bathroom break. You gotta.
Right. If you're the game that goes all the way each time.
Basmalis once again throwing down all his companions that he can. The only one missing is Aragorn because he's not utilizing Prancing Pony.
We've got a Hobbit and Pardon field in the Chadwick game. Haven't seen that one dropped before. And then Prancing Ponies in the other 2.
Interesting. Exert a Hobbit to play Bilbo from your draw deck, but then there's no exertion on Frodo, so it kind of looks like Bilbo was just drawn.
Yeah, sometimes you draw them in your opening hand.
And that always sucks just a little bit that, you don't get to actually utilize that one. Although perhaps even the whole point of it is, it's nice if I do it, but really the whole point is to deny your opponent their access to whatever it is that they want.
Right.
Not that it mattered here. It looks like we once again have Aragorn being drawn and played without needing a Prancing Pony. Boromir coming out to help him. Whew, look at this Aragorn
starting
right off
across the board here are also a lot smaller than they were in the World Championship last year. Kind of the meta has shifted away from those big 5-6 bids to be able to start Prancing Pony no matter what.
Yeah, I think that's a valid call considering the number of burden decks that appear to be here. We had 2 corruptions in the last round, one from Tentacles, one from Nazgul. So you can't go too high. Basmalis bidding 3, but then peeling all of them off with Sam right at the very beginning, which is a very classic play. That's exactly what used to happen at high level on for Fellowship, just regular Decipher Fellowship. But this Aragorn coming right out the gate with all of his stuff. He's got everything he wants except the sword.
So maybe the most important of the items, depending on what your opponent is playing.
Mm-hmm. But he's got armor, so he's protected against Isengard. Not that it matters here. He's got his Flaming Brands, who's protected against Nazgul. He's got Aragorn's bow, which, could make a difference here.
Absolutely could.
Especially with Greenleaf on the table.
Well, and those exerting a skirmish to wound orcs. If you don't have enough companions who are going to be able to win those skirmishes, it can be worth exerting Aragorn or Legolas so that they don't get a wound off when they go and fight against Arwen or Boromir.
Yeah.
Kind of a better distribution of the wounds, even if it's not fewer wounds overall.
This Hunter really being a good play. Like that 15 is quite a bit to take on, and the 4 vitality, it's difficult to justify pushing everything through, and it really makes you think twice about moving again here at site 2.
the 4 Vitality is really good for getting out those exert conditions, but it doesn't help you with Under the Watching Eye.
Yeah, because
So in the grind
this
deck
explicitly
in
requires a
particular, it
tracker, and
doesn't.
that guy's not a tracker. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really, really useful for basically every other exert to play Sauron condition and event. But
I wonder. So hear me out. Would it be weird to make him a tracker, so that you have actually like a giant tracker to like a 5 Twilight?
I have zero opposition to having him see a little bit of a boost. I'm actually surprised to see him in play in the tracker deck. But I think he's supposed to. Like in Fellowship, he got a Tengwar card, right? Like he's supposed to be one of these giant thematic minions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying he's bad. He's not. He was well played there. He did his job, but he's not damage +1. He doesn't get big enough to be an overwhelmed threat to your primary companions. With his boost for every companion on the table.
Yeah.
Even if you have 9 companions, he's an 18. But by the time you've got 9 companions, Aragorn has a sword or Gandalf's a 10. Like he's not being a Witch King or alerts. And
right.
I don't think it would be a bad thing to give him a small boost by adding a keyword that's just kind of helps various decks.
So Inquaya coming out, and Fell Voice's Call being used to pull out a black speed on him. So now he's sitting at a rather uncomfortable 13, which is enough to overwhelm Greenleaf, totally defeat Aragorn. And so you end up going up against Frodo and exerting Boromir once to get him outside of overwhelm range. That is a pretty decent number of wounds that's going to be going down. He may as well be damage +1 at that point. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's always... Oh, no. Just straight up going up against Boromir this time. So now you just get the 1. In fact,
interesting that he could have just put him against Boromir both times.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's something that he realized. That wait a minute, 13 isn't twice 7. I can just do this both times. So now that's 1 wound that's going to be coming with him. Probably won't make the difference, but you never know.
Yeah, it could have also been a concern that if he did have a event in his hand, Nazgul have some skirmish boosts, and there was Twilight on the table, that it would have been an overwhelm on Boromir, and then he would have been in real trouble for the Fierce Skirmish. So I'm not sure how defensively Chadwick was playing there, but
yeah. So 1 of each of both Orc Bowman and Under the Watching Eye out on site 2. That's a great start for Sauron Grind. Aragorn absolutely stacked now. He's got everything that he could possibly want. Gandalf, Friend of the Shirefall, coming out. All right, yeah, this is looking like a great start. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these other games here. So Mozdru with his... he's the one running pipes, right? Yeah, here comes
Pipes and Tentacles. I love everything about the deck he's running here. I'm going to watch his replays later
meta?
on tonight.
What meta? Like we're just gonna I'm gonna play what's fun, and he's doing well. Like he's
absolute player after my own heart. This is exactly the kind of thing that I like to see on the table.
Yeah, I mean he's sitting at 3rd, and the only reason he's 3rd instead of 2nd is because of strength of schedule. So like he's a baller.
Yeah, no, doing great. I'm 100% gonna check his stuff out again. I might steal that deck and take it for a run.
Now we do have an awful lot of burdens on here. We have an awful lot of burdens on both already, actually. If we take a look at his discard pile, there was 1 Thrashing Tentacle, so that was, and a Guided by One Purpose, but that requires 3 tentacles. So that was probably just reconciled away. So only one of these burdens would have come from a Thrashing Tentacle so far. So the guy probably bid 4 against a bid of 5, which that's...
I don't have the bid in my chat history. I must have opened the game after that.
Oh yeah, I can scroll all the way up, can't I? Stefan bid 3 and Mozdru bid 4. Never mind. Okay, so one of these burdens is...
It's a Prancing Pony, so...
Oh, Prancing Pony, there we go. Yeah, that makes more sense. So Stefan, yeah, bid 3, used 1 for Prancing Pony, and then 1 more for Thrashing Tentacle. Okay, it all makes sense now. But still, that's a lot. That is a lot of burdens on both sides. That's enough for Inquaya to now be doing work even without all 6 companions. That could be extremely devastating.
Yeah, well, in Modern Zoo, he bid 4, played the Prancing Pony, started Sam, but not Son of Hamfest. He could have seen an NK at Site 2.
Yeah, which that probably would have ended the game. If that
may
NK
well
could come
have,
out and just murder one of the big ones, yeah.
Now he's playing pipes, so he's got once Gandalf and his piper on the table, he can just ignore corruption from that point forward. But you don't start Gandalf in a pipe and
Yeah.
at least another pipe or two to spot with some pipe weed. Like you could, not saying that could never happen, but there's no guarantee for that start with a high bid like that.
So the Moria Lake Marsh coming out. We have these foul tentacles chaining into one another. We've already got 2 stacked on Out of Dark Waters, which is enough to give it defense. If the condition is about to be removed, you can discard 2 tentacles stacked there to prevent that. So now it's more or less invincible. Now that he's already got the 2 on there. 2 guided by one purpose coming out. Spotting 3. I got to scroll back down to my log.
Yeah, what is he cycling back into the deck? Adding the burden.
Yeah, so he grabs another guided by one purpose from his discard pile, shuffles it in, and then
Did he not trigger the second part?
No, I guess he decided not to.
It's a mag. Yeah.
I guess he preferred to stack them up on Out of Dark Waters, but he totally could have. Used that second portion, but I guess he decided not to.
I wonder if specifically it's because he had a Thrashing Tentacle in play. He's going for a Corruption deck, and that Thrashing Tentacle adds burdens when he loses.
It does, yeah. So of these, so Out of Dark Waters has been reworked so that each time a tentacle takes a wound, you stack the tentacle there. So basically, if you can smack the tentacle, right, hit it with your sword, then it'll go back down under the water. But Thrashing Tentacle, yeah, like you mentioned, wants to lose the skirmish, and so of course we get the other side of this. That okay, one of the ways you can avoid the burdens is by letting him win the skirmish, and he's fierce. Yeah.
His higher strength means that he does have the potential to win skirmishes. He will against a naked elf or dwarf, and he's strong enough to overwhelm a hobbit potentially. So
interesting that he's putting all the wounds over here on Frodo. I guess he's probably already thinking about making Sam his next ring bearer, because this is already
that
looking
many
very
burdens.
deadly.
I would be considering it.
Yeah.
And we've already seen 3 guided by one purpose, so his ability to kind of mass add them early, outside
That's
of the
true. So
phases,
so he's only got two resistance left. Well, hang on. This is the deck we know that is carrying a bunch of must do without hope. If he doesn't play his cards right, he could walk into Site 5 and get obliterated. Just lose the game there.
Right in the maneuver phase.
Before he has a chance to kill Frodo.
That's very true.
We might be seeing the world first 3-1 tentacle deck.
I'm so happy. I cannot express how happy I am to see this deck doing so well. Whether or not it's good enough to shake up the meta or just kind of something people need to suddenly be concerned about, it's so good to have it doing so well. I'm absolutely thrilled. I just wish I could pronounce the player's name correctly, because I'm really not sure how to do it.
Actually, I think that there's a pronunciation guide on... if I put that name into the Google Translate, I think...
Oh, is it a Czech name?
Come on. Yeah, so it says Polish, actually.
Modrzew.
Modrzew. I guess the
Modrzew?
W... Yeah, I guess the W makes an F sound.
I've definitely been saying it wrong. Yeah, moving into that Balrog.
Yep, here it comes.
Yeah. Using the site to play it from hand.
Oh, he didn't have any copies. No. Oh, that's... Okay.
Oh, well, no, it's a maneuver event, isn't it?
Oh, wait, yeah, you're right. Oh, never mind. Okay, yeah.
Oh,
Here's one. Oh, he only had the one. Now he's going to get eaten by the Balrog. Oh, man. So close. I mean, of course, it's definitely a win to get Frodo off the field, because now you haven't even reached the second sanctuary, and Sam is already your last resort, and he's only got the 5 resistance, which is going to be significantly easier to corrupt here.
Well, 5 from 0 is a lot harder than 10 from 8.
Well, you say that, but the Thrashing Tentacle actually has that built into it.
That's true.
It says, 2 burdens if you cannot spot a burden. So the first time, it's gonna... Oh, here we go. 17 Twilight. Does he have anything? Oh, yeah, so all 4 of these can be played. 1 is a Vial, 3 are foul, so 1 foul coming out can...
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah,
Stefan,
he has to do the vial because he doesn't yet have Damus Ceranon Dam out. So even though this is a river,
wow.
it doesn't help him. So he had to use the Vile Tentacle's ability to discard a Moria card from hand to make the Fellowship's current site gain Marsh. And so now they're all coming out.
2 Thrashing Tentacles. Though he's pretty clean health-wise at a Sanctuary. He could probably afford to just lose all 4 of those fights. Though there are now more tentacles than companions.
Yeah.
Is this...
It's...
Nope, not the site that prevents multiples. This could just be a swarm. This could be a win by swarm overwhelm if he's not sitting on something to save Sam.
Holding on to
Have
the
I mentioned
last
I love
tentacle.
this deck in action yet? I'm so happy.
Yeah,
the
fact that it's got two different victory conditions that it can go for. It can either go for a burden strategy, or it can do this and just say, all right, we're going to swarm you. We followed you all the way down the river, bro. You thought you were safe because you left the marsh? Absolutely not.
Joke's on you, son. Taking his time to... There we go.
Now this Aragorn's bow,
out.
so you can take him out, but as you shoot them, they shoot back under the water. And now that he's got Ryther stacked on there, Ryther has the ability to play it and stack 2 tentacles from your discard pile on that card. So that is absolutely going to be used later on.
Just keep getting pieces out there.
Yeah. An archery was put on a Vile Tentacle. He decided to not put it away. I feel like that would have been prudent, just so that you have the ability. If you're not drawing your Ceranon Dam, you definitely want to have the ability to turn something into a marsh.
Putting it away, though, means that he would have been at 5 tentacles to 5 companions, where Sam would definitely be safe. The 6th tentacle here probably goes on Aragorn. Because Aragorn's bow is going to be the real problem for his next site. So if he can take him out
and he's
here,
exhausted, yeah. So if he can take that out, and if both of these Thrashing Tentacles are going to lose their skirmishes. Oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Thrashing Tentacles.
They're both going to win. I'm
win.
sorry, wrong. Yeah. Yeah, the dynamics of this deck are way different from normal, where losses are good, actually.
Yep.
We're gonna stack everything up, all those burdens being avoided by making sure that you take your lumps, which is again an interesting trade-off.
Stacking up those.
But there goes the Vile
characters.
Tentacles, so now there's at least one Vial over there on Outer Dark Waters. So now this swarm is just waiting to come out again.
Flaming Brand
was used.
Not gonna do a whole lot against the.
Oh, I got it. He was gonna die anyway, so I think it may have been a misclick, but either way, it didn't make a big difference. Oh yeah, Thrashing Tentacles are fierce. So actually, they're gonna get 2 lumps out. Not that it matters that the Sanctuary is gonna wipe all 4 of those away, but
good position for Modsref. Is that how we just?
Yeah, is that how it said?
Modsref.
Yeah, that is actually looking to be about as perfect as you might want. The Writhing Tentacle can play itself to pull 2 of those Thrashing Tentacles back onto it. Vile Tentacle can come out anytime that he needs Marsh made. And his Fellowship, look at all those pipe weeds going down. We have 3 copies of Gondor Bowman. We have the Aragorn's pipe. We don't yet have Gandalf with his pipe, so Enquea is still a threat, but his opponent is playing Moria, so really the only risk there is that there's a splashed Enquea somewhere.
Though Splash Enquea is, kind of a
classic,
company standard here, yeah. You
it's
see a Moria deck
somewhere. But
it might have 1 or it might have 3, but it's probably in there somewhere.
Right, but that is a 50-card deck still, so that's
true.
It may be a tall order to actually pull it off. So here we've got relics coming out. We have the Moria-centered Flame of Adun that actually plays well with the other children instead of discarding everybody. And looks like he says that's good enough. Or maybe that's all I can do. He's down to 0 Twilight, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, he's just starting to get that shadow set up. Balrog's not going to be able to force a stop, but I don't see armor on the table
Gondor
yet.
Bowman,
so...
yeah, they're gonna they're just going to wipe him out and keep going, I think.
All right, then.
Boom, boom, boom. It was either that, since there's no armor on the table, somebody would have died, I think.
I think so.
So much better to just take those couple of exertions. And he's still got one copy of Gondor Bowman, which can make or break if there's a swarm coming in, so long as it's not backed up by a troll.
Yeah, Pipeweed deck, unlike so many of these, has a harder time with those regroup move decisions because it knows it can heal itself back up if it stops.
Yeah.
You know, it's not
That
like we were talking
temptation
earlier,
always
like,
sitting
hey,
there. Yeah.
you're not at a sanctuary, like you're gonna be in this state next turn. Move now while your opponent has just drawn, fresh cards instead of having a minute to stack their hand. But Pipeweed has very much the ability to go, no, we're gonna take a break.
And 8 Twilight is definitely an awkward time, or an awkward place to be in. Stefan taking a moment to try and figure out what exactly he's going to play. 2 copies of Armory being out is good, but it's not invincible. Each Scavengers that you play is 3.
Yeah, but they are coming a Scavenger just for the draw and the cycling and getting things set up. It's not necessarily a bad play here.
So Cave Troll's Chain and Cave Troll's Hammer getting discarded, as well as Athelas. Just to get those in the discard pile because Relics is going to pull them out later anyway.
Yeah, they'll come out as needed.
But yeah, this
is
swarm
nothing to let anything kind of important go through here. But he's still getting the cycle out. He's helping get it set up.
Yep, he's got the 3 big ones that he needs. Minus, I guess, Swarm would be handy, but nothing is going to really win here, I think.
But with 46 cards still in deck at Site 6, he's definitely got the potential here to just need to be getting that setup going still.
Interesting that he's bothering with Aragorn's bow, but I guess it's really just to make his opponent, give his opponent a chance to misplay and discard one of the one of the armories. Because the skirmishes would have been fine either way after that big scavenger was taken care of. But now we're back to the interesting side with the tentacles. Let's see what happens here. Trust Me comes down. Anduin Confluence. So
dishing the allies.
Yeah.
There
Barlam of
goes...
Butterberg gets ditched. And actually, this particular tentacle deck is probably the only one at this tournament that feels confident enough that it doesn't need allies, and so he can use that against all those other very ally heavy situations. Yeah. So 2 Thrashing Tentacles were stacked on Outer Dark Waters by playing Writhing Tentacle, so now those are available. Vial came out to make it
a marsh.
Once again, make it a marsh. We have both of those Thrashing Tentacles coming out once again. We have another couple Foul Tentacles out. You can play 1 and pull yet another tentacle from the draw deck, although I think all the major players are getting out here into the discard pile. Mostreff is down to just 13 cards in hand. Or 13 cards in deck, I mean.
I think we'd be seeing a much faster play here without all the thought if he had all the cards in hand. Just have the choices ready to go.
So Foul Tentacle comes out. He decides to play another Writhing, yeah. So which I think is, well, that may be his only option at this point, but it's definitely a good option. If you can get these guys stacked back up, then each of those represents 2 more tentacles being recycled back onto Outer Dark Waters.
It's also just a bit more strength for the potential overwhelms going on here.
Now the archery goes on Vial, and he doesn't recycle it. So that is the one weakness here, is that the Dark Waters is not going to have that available to... Now, come to think of it, because of the amount of Twilight here, it's possible that he's holding on to a Ceranon Dam and he decided not to play it. Just because of the Twilight concern. Oh, never mind.
I could absolutely see him going here. No, he's going for Sam. I was going to say, I could see him going here to try to get multiple overwhelms on the table.
Yeah, 16 against 5? Like, that's...
Well, but Sam's going to be at least an 8.
Okay, yeah, because of Trust Me.
He still needs a boost. Trust Me is not enough here, but if he's got... Yeah.
Okay, all of that, and now both of the Writhers... Oh, wait a minute. What's this? Lost from the Goblins. If the Ringbearer exerts or takes a wound, discard a card from the top of your draw deck for each More minion you spot for each shadow card discarded in this way, add a
Yep.
burden. 3 burdens added from Lost to the Goblins. Oh, that hurts to lose Foul Things, though. He's so close. He's so close to clinching out that victory, but a lot of his most important tools are going to be here in the discard pile now. He did manage to get that vial back on the Outer Dark Waters.
Doesn't have the thrashing on there, though. That's...
Gandalf's pipe got discarded. Ranger's sword. Yeah, where's his dam? Where's the dam?
Well... what a question. He does have one in his discard pile. I wasn't watching closely enough to know if that was voluntary or not.
It might have been.
It
wasn't one of these ones that was just thrown out from Lost to the Goblins.
No.
Oh, I keep meaning to take a look into how we might fix that bug. So you saw that each one of them went away one at a time.
Yep.
Which is down to what happens when you double move and you don't have the dam down. And Vial only works against one site, the current site. So he double moves, discards every single tentacle. Oh man, that dam was absolutely vital, and it wasn't there when he needed it. All these rivers
the
that could have very easily...
Out of Dark Waters.
Here it comes!
Discard.
Too little, too late. Oh man.
Well, 2 foul tentacles. He might have.
He's only got 3 cards left
more.
in deck, and there's
They
nothing.
could be tentacles.
There's nothing.
So...
Guided by one purpose. Foul Things. Guided by one purpose. Oh!
my goodness.
Oh, he pulls off the corruption win by the skin of his teeth. His opponent thinking that he's finally managed to get rid of all these writhing tentacles by doing that double move. Oh my goodness.
That was wonderful.
That last copy of Foul Things, doing something that you don't often see, where rather than playing a permanent card, it played a shadow event, which is in fact totally allowed by it. But that is incredible. So with that tentacle deck, Mozdrev here is going to be going 3-1 at the first World Championship Circuit game of 2025, showing that tentacles are not dead. What a game.
Oh, while we've been watching that, Bassamelis did win his final game, cinching the first championship, or the first win of a circuit event.
Not that he needs it. He's already got an invite, but here he is flexing on all his potential competition.
May actually be good news for the rest of the competition. 2 points for places 4, 5, or 2, 3, and 4. Nobody is going to be strictly in the lead because he's already got his invitation.
That's right. So
Yeah,
over here we have Crispy against Carvier. Carvier with a pretty well set up sort of choky style that doesn't go all in on the chokes.
Yeah, real back and forth with events on alerts here. Server of the Sacred Fire, or Savageries match their numbers. But Aragorn does have armor, so even as he loses that fight, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Armor is just so difficult for Urks to deal with. You really have to do, like, if you want to really do that, you need to have Beyond the Height of Men somewhere in your deck that allows you to ditch one of those armors. And in fact, in these situations where people are often running 6 companions, this could very well discard every armor on the table.
Yep. Beyond the Height of Men is a good card if you're relying on damage +1, because armor is so prevalent. Gimli's Helm as well is another target for that, because it's armor, helm, or what's the third thing it can do?
Armor, helm, or shield. It also gets rid of Mithril Coat. Not that that's too meta, but it's.
But it's a good target for them. Mithril Coat gets rid of all damage bonuses, and if you happen to be running Lurtz's Sword, lowers that as well. That's
Yeah.
not another not so meta pick, but
Well, it's something that I've seen a lot, actually. I haven't seen it at these competitive events, but it is something that gets played in casual games. So it
You seeing it
makes
with the
it makes
crows?
Lurt's damage +1 on top of his already damage +1. So that's 3 wounds. Plus, each time bearer wins a skirmish, the free people's player must wound a companion or discard the top 3 cards of their draw deck. Which, so that could be a total of 4 wounds going down for winning a single skirmish. And if Lurt's is fierce, that could be 8. That's pretty potent. But all of that kind of gets flattened if your opponent is wearing armor, and so that's where that Beyond the Height of Men really comes in. So Crispy moving all the way down to Tolbrandir, a very, very exhausted fellowship against all these trackers, and then we're gonna have a total of 6 trackers here. Yeah, this is a situation where Sauron Grind is gonna grind you up. There is
Absolutely.
no way that they get out of this.
I don't think he makes it through the archery phase here.
Yeah. You have 1 from Orc Bowman, and because there is an exhausted companion to spot, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 1 dead Arwen, and then corruption or death on the side of Frodo. That is absolutely a win for Shadow there.
Concession right there. Fully recognized that he wasn't going to be able to get through it.
That he was not going anywhere. So now we're just left to this one game, Chadwick versus Enolan. Once again, Sauron Grind entering into the Tolbrandir. This is looking very similar to the other game. Let's see how it plays out. We have 4 copies of our Under the Watching Eye here, which looks like it's going to be leaving his opponent completely exhausted. And this time we have 4 companions that are exhausted, meaning that those ambush troops,
They're going to be 11s.
They're going to be 11 apiece plus an archer. So right now that's 4 minion archery total. We do have a much more resistant Frodo here.
He can't
That's
take
5.
all 4 wounds for the Sildur's Bane, though.
And near Sinquea. Oh. Now, maneuver does come before archery. So he's not going to be able to really put him under the pinch and say, hey, you want to turn those into burdens? Do you want to do it?
But the extra 11 strength is not going to be sneezed at, and if Frodo somehow makes it past the skirmish phase,
all
that's
4
one more
ambush
skirmish.
troops, all 4 Orc Bowmen. That's a total of 8 archery on the table. 11, 11, 11, 11, all the way across the board. One of them fierce.
If I'm mathing this right, that is exactly what is required to fully remove.
Look at that!
From the game.
Look at that! Completely perfect.
Oh, that was well done.
Oh man. Well, those were some incredible games. Especially congrats to Mozdrev for pulling off that incredible tentacle win. Let's go ahead and load these finished tournaments, and let's see the final standings. So Vesmelis went completely undefeated, 4-0, getting himself 3 points. Not that it matters, again, because as the returning world champion, he has an invitation already locked in. Mozdrev and Chadwick and Distali will each receive 2 points towards their circuit total. And then Gary Gailey and Nolan, Carver, Stefan, and Chrisme will each receive 1 point. All of these players will also receive a full art Watcher in the Water. Maybe we should hand those out now before the next event later today, so that Mozdrev can go, show off his bling. But we'll definitely take care of that after the stream, though.
Oh, well done to everyone who played today. These were some really good games. I loved watching these.
Yeah, these were excellent. We'll also be posting all of these decks later, not until after the event later today, so that people aren't just copying other people's homework. But incredible. Congrats to everyone. Thank you to everyone for playing. Good luck to everybody who plays later this afternoon. That's going to be in about 2 hours from now, a little less than 2 hours from now, if you're looking to play in the American time zone. Myself and Mock won't be there to commentate, unfortunately. We have some other
family responsibilities.
Just
happen to coincide.
Yeah. But once again, if any of you listening in on this think that you could be able to stream or do something like that, reach out to us. We'd love to have more commentary streams out there. It's definitely something that we'd like to see. Now, this particular tournament is not going away. I wonder if I have to fix that. Anyway. I think that about wraps up the stream, yeah? So let's just close this down. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.